Welcome, everyone. We got it to all of you here to Sins of the Horadrim, to Season 9. What can we expect? Let me pull up the Diablo 4 roadmap, because these are the topics that are being talked about. Okay, we get Season 9, and Season 9 is going to be Horadric powers, whatever that means, quest and reputation board. They also said an old friend will be returning, whatever that means. Now, if you think about Horadrim, who did they fight against? We recently had Malphas. It could be Lorith returning, and we're getting a Nightmare Dungeon rework. So we have dungeon escalation. I wonder if they're going to turn Nightmare Dungeons into vaults. Remember vaults from Season 3? Everyone liked them. Could the Nightmare Dungeon rework have something to do with that? We get an earnable pet, which is actually a joke because we have that everywhere, right? So new Nightmare Dungeon activities, console, keyboard, and mouse support, and more. We get the powers. We maybe get a Horadric cube. King Ghostwolf, Dime Vision, good to see you there. Nice haircut, thank you. The barber said 2 millimeters on the side and 4 on top. Isn't that too short? I said, do it, sir. This is already, I look like a hobo. Cut it off, my friend. Then he asked me if he should wax my eyebrows. I accidentally said yes, and he just almost ripped all my eyebrows off. So, that's that. Okay, we got Season 9. Season 9, Sins of the Horadrim. Is it Horadrim or Horadrim? Horadrim. I think it's Horadrim, right? We got Kinae's Cube. Or Horadric Cube. Right? Nightmare Dungeons into... turn into vaults. Malphas returns. So these are some of the thoughts that we kind of put together here. Right? Hope we get a cube. I'm not sure how the cube would work, right? If it would be a thing. So the Kinae's and the Horadric cube, or Dream, they were for combining items, upgrading items, and doing things. Creating new items. Vaults. The vaults were from Season 3. Season 3 were the Malphas vaults, but they were all packed in the storyline of Horadrim. Because you had the one guy who works with ancient machinery without noticing that that machinery got infested by Malphas. And they mentioned that an old evil returns, an old friend returns, but was a friend in this case, right? There's a lot possible. Monkey, good to see you there, partner. Howdy. Hope you're liking the thumbnail, because the thumbnail we created for this has a bit of a... You know, this is Deckard Cain from Diablo 4. I felt like... That said an old friend is returning. Bring Deckard Cain back from the dead right now. Like, or with throwing hands. Right? I'm going to be making sure to take notes on the side. I always take notes on the side. You know how it is? Well, they're doing it again, chan. Not sure why this is there when I full screen. That's the little PDR goblin hype. The biggest problem with insider jokes like this is no one gets them if you are not here all the time. Is Spiritborn finished? Yes, we had a very good Spiritborn build for Season 8 Curse Bowl. If you haven't checked it out, it's a Season 8 Thorn Spiritborn. It's pretty good. The Thorn Spiritborn is kicking ass. Would be that someone from D3's linked to the cube? Well, Deckard Cain. But Deckard Cain is kind of DED. It should be in Diablo. This dude is in Diablo, but only on the PDR. He's the PDR boost goblin. Okay, chat, let's go. Oh, great, no sound. Diablo.
Coming with the 2.3.0 PTR realm. My name is Marcus Kretz, and I'm a community manager here at Blizzard Entertainment. And today I'm joined by some new and familiar faces to the stream, which we're really excited to get into. Liam, welcome to the stream. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do on Diablo?
Hello, I am Liam. I'm an associate game designer here on Diablo. I'm always caffeinated, and I'm excited to be here.
Hey, I'm Aislinn. I'm a systems designer on the final design team, and I'm also happy to be here, and probably not as caffeinated as Liam, but sometimes I wish I was.
Hey everyone, I'm Charles Dunn. I'm a game designer, work on class design on the final design team, and I had some coffee this morning, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Nice. Good way to be. And coming in all the way from downtown Albany, New York, Mr. Dan Tangway, how much caffeine have you had today?
Hey everybody,
poor
I'm Dan
Dan is
Tangway.
always
I've
stuck
had
in the studio.
0 caffeine today. I'm not allowed to have that stuff anymore. So.
He's just always alone.
But yeah, I am the design director for live services, and yeah, I'm excited to share what we've got cooking.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Great to have you here, Dan. And yeah, we're really excited to dive into everything coming with the 2.3.0 PTR realm. It's going to be live from May 27th till June 3rd. We're going to be getting into everything coming with that today. However, it's been about a month since Season 8 launched, Belal's return. We've all gotten in and gotten
5
some
days,
fantastic
Chad.
boss powers.
5 days we're getting
so, you know,
the PTR.
I know we wanted to take a moment to sort of address and see where things are currently sitting in the game. So, like, Aislinn, how do you feel things have been since the start of Season 8?
Yeah, so yeah, we just love to talk a little bit about how has Season 8 gone? Like, what kind of changes did we make from the Season 8 PTR? How did they go in live in Season 8? So the first thing I want to talk about with that on this topic is level pacing and activity variety.
I want to know
as you guys may be
what
aware,
they think if we level too fast.
We slowed down leveling just a little bit in Season 8, and I'm really glad we actually ended up bringing that to PTR because it got us so much fantastic feedback from you guys, and we decided to pull back on it a bit, and now we're actually pretty happy with where the pacing of leveling is in Diablo 4 right now. With that said, it did end up highlighting a few other things with the slightly slower leveling, which was that there may not be enough activity variety while you're leveling up. And I think we saw this with Apparition Incursions.
That's true.
In Season 8 specifically.
Good. Thank you,
There was this
Aislinn.
pressure, a lot of people felt pressure to, you know, if you want to make progress in the season, you want to actually get rewarded on the seasonal track, you have to go to the Apparition Incursion event. And so a big part of what we did is we took a step back and we looked at leveling activity variety, and we also want to take a look at end game activity variety, like with layer bosses, because we also know that there's been a little bit of fatigue with like going in and fighting layer bosses over and over and over. And so with all these things said, we've had a slight philosophical, I don't want to say shift, I would say nudge, a philosophical nudge to try and push people to different content types. When you actually do go and fight a layer boss, we want it to be a big moment, a big reward moment that one could say would punch you in the face and knock your teeth out even. And the same is true for tributes in the Undercity or the Infernal Hordes. When you go and do these things, we want them to be really snappy, really punchy, give you a lot of stuff, and then you can move on to something else. And so there's always a reason to go do something else in Diablo 4, because we think that that kind of activity variety is fun. And it makes each gameplay session more varied, which just kind of helps the game last longer. And you just
For
have
this,
more
we need
fun
more
while
tributes,
you're
for
doing
example.
it. And then beyond that kind of stuff, there's also a lot of permanent improvements that we're going to be talking about on this stream. It's going to be interspersed throughout some of the seasonal content that we're actually going to be talking about, because with Sins of the Horadrim comes a lot of cool permanent additions as well, which is going to be awesome.
Necromont's
My
minion build is
earpiece
worth if you
exploding.
haven't seen the latest one, Death Before Dishonor.
Begins.
Posted one.
It might be a common trend on this live stream.
Let me check mine really quick. All right, we're good.
But yeah, and finally, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for playing Diablo 4. I know I have personally had a blast playing Season 8. I know a lot of people on the team have had a blast playing Season 8. We're constantly just playing the game, finding what works, what doesn't, listening to what you guys are saying about it, and we're all here to make Diablo as just fucking awesome as it can possibly be. And so
should see
thank
the
you for
creator
joining
Discord.
us on this journey. And with that, I wanted to pass it off to you
It's
to talk
full of
about
feedback.
class design.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk a little bit about where we see the class balance and relative balance of the different builds and classes in the current season, in Season 8. here. I think broadly speaking, class balance, at least in terms of like the spread and diversity of the meta, is in pretty good spot. Certainly compared to some of the previous seasons of Diablo 4, where we had one or two outlier builds that were just so far above what anything else or any other class could do. We don't really see that this season. We do have, some Lightning Spear Sork is maybe a little bit higher than we would like, and there are some other builds at the top, and maybe Spiritborn in particular is lagging a bit behind, but broadly speaking, we're really happy with the overall diversity of builds that players are using to experience all of the content in the game. One of our main pillars for class balance is the concept of that all builds are able to complete all content, which is really that you can take any kind of build that you can think of that's kind of coherently put together, right? You find a skill you like, you start building into it. And you can take that build and get into Torment 4. You can complete the season journey, you can fight those Torment 4 bosses, and have reasonable success doing it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the absolute fastest speed farmer in the pit with every single build, but you're able to complete all the content. That's really the bar we're trying to shoot for with a lot of our class balance, and we want to make sure that there's a wide diversity of classes and builds that can achieve that.
Let's say 75%.
Okay? We've gotten
we got to be honest.
In a pretty good spot.
75% we're there.
There are a few outliers that we're still going to look to kind of close the gap on. And also, I just wanted to say that this is an ongoing process. And one of the things that the PTR is so valuable for us testing is getting feedback on the new content we're putting in, the new builds we're trying to enable, and make sure they are hitting that mark.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, that's the nature of live service games, right? Like, it's always iterative. We're always trying to balance things and get them to a spot where they function really well and builds feel really good.
At this point, we need to buff weaker builds because the top end builds.
The state of the game right now in terms of season 8, having all those builds be available to get you through your entire season's journey is really, really nice. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be sharing some updates for the class balance later on in the presentation, specifically around the Overpower stat, which has definitely been kind of dominating the meta this season and has been for a little bit. So we're definitely aware of that and going to look to make adjustments with the interest of promoting non-Overpower builds to also compete with them.
This could be bad if they screwed up.
And of course, also we also recognize that here in Season 8, a lot of the absolute top builds, those ones at the very top of the meta,
they might ruin
are
Overpower
kind of the same ones that
and
they
break
were
the game.
in Season 7. In the previous season, and we know there's some fatigue around that where, hey, Death Trap Rogue, it's the best rogue build again, hey, Earthquake Barbarian, and so on. Bloodwave Necro are some examples of hey, it's the same class the second season. And we definitely realized that maybe we didn't quite shake up the meta as much as we really were aiming for on Season 8, but we hope some of the big changes I'll talk about later really achieve that for Season 9 going forward.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a little bite-sized sneak peek of some of the things we'll be talking about later on the stream. But again, that's the beauty of having the PTR, right?
Overpower
I think Dan said it before, like, this is our time to adjust all the knobs in the dial so that you can test the content, give us your feedback.
The only thing that allows us to do Torment 4
that all goes live to make sure it feels great in game. So yeah,
So
yeah, with that in mind, with the 2.3.0 PTR, for those of you that are keen and know the roadmap inside and out, you'll know that this next season's is going to deal with all things dungeons. So we have a lot of new and exciting systems and activities that are coming in Season 9 that you'll see in the 2.3.0 PTR. So Dan, what are some of the things that players can expect to get into and try out with this PTR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to run through some of the features that you're going to see in the Season 9 PTR. First off, I'm going to talk a little bit high level, build on some of the things that they were saying before. I think when we've been looking at our seasons after X1, we've really been thinking about, what are those areas that we need to really kind of plus up, what's become stale. And one of those areas that, really felt as if it needed some love was the dungeons, specifically our Nightmare dungeons. And so we slotted that in Season 9. And that's really been the dominant theme of a lot of the features that we're going to release. Obviously, if you're familiar with the roadmap, you'll understand that this is where we're headed. But it's important that we're still trying to, even within that, promote that activity variety and create a lot of permanent additions to the game. I know that's something coming out of Season 7, especially. A lot of folks had a lot of feedback on. And so we've taken some extra effort to make sure that we can, bring a lot of these changes season on season into the permanent game moving forward. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the features.
Okay.
Now, as with any PTR, I'm just going to say up front, we're not going to include any story. We're not going to include the quest line, rep track, things like that. We're really focusing on things that are more repeatable gameplay that we need a lot of feedback on. First up, Horadric spells. So you see an image here of the UI for the Horadric spells. It's really
we can
cool.
Do
it's
6
kind
spells.
of create a power system this season. I'm not going to speak too much about that. I'm actually going to let Liam speak about that.
6 spells and 3 powers.
After,
Look at this here. 1, 2, 3,
and these features. Next up, we have Nightmare Affects updates, and I'll get to those in a little bit. We have Horadric Strong Rooms.
Oh, Astaroth.
Horadric Strong Rooms
are
a new
Astaroth.
type of micro
that
dungeon
boss is so good.
within any dungeon. Next up, we have Escalating Nightmares. Escalating Nightmares is a new type of dungeon progression system. And finally, we have Astaroth. So let's dig into Nightmare Affects updates just a little bit more.
Okay.
I actually think Aislin's going to talk about it a bit after, so I'm just going to hit this at a high level. I mean, the defining feature of Nightmare Dungeons are the Nightmare Affects, right? And so, we've spent a lot of time over, 8 seasons basically saying, oh, well, people don't like this one. Let's tweak this one. Maybe we can add a few here and there. But, we really haven't put, a strong lens on the Nightmare Dungeon affixes as we have in Season 9, especially when we're looking at trying to promote new types of rewards, or at least variations on the type of rewards that dungeons can have. So you see here, we've got Horadric Reserve and Equipment Delve, and both of these are new types of rewards that you can find within the dungeons. Equipment Delve specifically is you are seeking around the dungeon to find these gizmos that allow you to upgrade the rewards that you get at the end.
Okay.
Let's move on. All right, so let's talk about Strong Rooms a bit. I said it was a micro dungeon, right? This is a micro dungeon, however, that's going to be hidden within a Nightmare Dungeon.
Okay.
So, the Horadrim have always been very secretive, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to explore gameplay kind of along those lines. And so you, upon entering the dungeon, have to find the entrance to this, Horadric Strong Room. Now, once you're in the Strong Room, and you basically are going to be earning Horadric attunement by slaying enemies. And this attunement is going to improve the chest that you get at the end after defeating the mini-boss. So really, all said and done, what this Strong Room is about is maximizing that attunement. If it feels a little bit like the Gauntlet, it does have some inspiration from that. We don't have the Gauntlet in the game anymore, but we wanted to, bring that element of really trying to maximize your score within a certain period of time, and giving you a lot of really interesting ways to do that.
It reminds me of vaults.
And so what you see here in the image
the vault end room
is one of those tools. These are tests that you can choose to take at the beginning of the Strong Room, and that will modify how your Strong Room plays out. And there's a couple of other images here we can go through as well.
I like that. This is pretty cool.
Here is the Horadric portal that you'll enter in order to get to the Strong Room.
End room.
Here is the gate that leads to the Strong Room. So you have an ante-room right before the Strong Room, where you have to perform a little test to make sure you understand what's about to happen next. I think there's one more. Yep, here's some combat around one of the Horadric pillars. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the Horadric pillar does, but Horadric pillar is one of those ways to boost your score. Okay. So with the Horadric Strong Rooms, we're really interested in just getting a good amount of feedback about, is it fun enough?
So far,
does it differentiate itself enough from some of the other modes that we've created? And so, yeah, let us know. Next up, we've got Escalating Nightmares. Now, this one, I just got done playtesting this morning, and it's really coming together at this point. We're really happy with it. So this is a progression that allows you to fight through a series of nightmare dungeons. 3 specifically, and each time you enter a new nightmare dungeon, new affixes get added to the list of dungeons, increasing both the difficulty and, of course, the fun part, the reward efficiency. And so it's going to culminate with a boss fight. The one you're going to play in the PTR is going to culminate with that Astaroth boss fight. And in order to get into, an escalating nightmare, you're going to need to get an escalating nightmare sigil. This is currently going to drop in
cool.
from strong rooms. All right, I think there is an image of a totem coming up. So let's take a look at that.
That's a cool gameplay loop.
Yep.
Do Nightmare Dungeon.
So at the end
get the sigil,
of a dungeon, you're going to be looking for this particular totem. And that's going to allow you to open a portal immediately to the next dungeon, which is honestly going to create a nice flow state running from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon. So you don't have to back out if you don't want to. You don't have to go into your inventory and hit it again. You just hit the portal and go.
Now, Asteroids needs good drops, really good drops.
With the escalating nightmares, I think the thing that we probably want the most feedback on is actually how you go about acquiring it. Right now, you can only get them in Torment 1, and going into the PTR, we're like, well, that feels pretty good. But we're also like, well, do people want to try and experience this earlier? So this is something we'd love to hear from y'all on. Finally, we've got Astaroth reignited.
I like that he's not a boss ladder
Astaroth,
boss.
of course, is a very recognizable demon from Diablo 4 base game, and we were really trying to think of somebody we could put a face, to for the upcoming season. And somebody said, well, what about Astaroth? And we thought about it, and we're like, well, yeah, that's kind of unfinished business. Really, this is kind of a rematch when you come down to it, because you defeated him the first time, right? You knocked him off the amalgam, and then you saw him in hell, but we really haven't seen him since. He's just sitting there relaxing.
End of the day, we'll end up in Pit Farm.
So we really wanted to have this rematch.
But that doesn't change the fact that
we don't want to give you the same fight, right?
Masterwork materials.
We've updated the combat mechanics, and there's some things that will feel familiar, but there's some new twists in this fight as well.
It's an alternative to Infernal
The final
Hordes.
thing I want to say about Astaroth right now is he is not immediately going to the boss ladder. We're really trying to find ways to integrate some of our bosses in new fashions within the overall end game. It's pretty important for us to, kind of branch out. We did a great job iterating on and polishing up the boss ladder last season. So we want to try some new things here, and let us know how we did there. But I think there's a tease of Astaroth coming up, so let's check it out.
Damn.
So here we are entering his lair.
He looks so
good.
good.
Part of the fight, first phase of the fight. It's going to feel a little bit familiar. He's going to be riding the amalgam, but pretty soon it varies up quite a bit. And so we're going to leave it at that, I think. Honestly, yeah, I don't want to spoil it for folks. Just go check it out when the PTR hits.
Morris, greetings.
So I think at this point, we are going to chat with Liam next. So I'm going to kick it back to Irvine.
Hello. Oh my gosh, I am so nervous right now. that caffeine is combining with that nervous energy, and it is creating something. I don't know. We're just going to go for the ride.
Ride that wave.
The real three-face is terrible.
Ride that wave.
Cameron.
Let's get into this section. So we just talked about a whole lot of really cool permanent content that's going to be coming to Diablo. Everything Dan just mentioned is so cool. I'm so excited for it. Now we're going to start talking about some seasonal content. So we can't wait for you guys to get in and play around with this stuff. Horadric spells, all new this season. And the team has put so much love, so much energy into designing all of this. We're so excited. I can't wait to tell you about it, which I'm going to do right now in this overview section, starting with these bullet points. So several spell components. That doesn't do it justice. We have 30 different components you're going to be able to combine together. That's a lot of choice. And you're going to basically be building your own spell. What does that mean? We're going to get into it. And the last bullet point, unique utility. Again, what does that mean? It means a lot. This
is a pretty intricate system.
Not a good build-up,
These spells are not just like, oh, what one does the most damage, right?
Yes.
It's a lot about like, what kind of functionality do I want with these skills? And you can really customize it exactly how you want.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. Go ahead,
Yeah. Previous seasons, like in season 8, you get the power from the boss, and that is the one thing that you have, and that's the visual component. But like you said, you build these Horadric spells. Like you get to pick the different things you want to put together, which is really
There's not a summon spell.
It's so cool.
I want to cry.
With that said, let's just hop into it. Let's start digging into what these are. All right, so right here, what we are looking at is a catalyst. And a catalyst for those that don't know, which probably most of you don't know, is the foundation of your spell. This is what gives it its form and its function.
It has lucky hit
as
chance.
you can see, there is already so much depth here. It has a lucky hit chance. It has its own cooldown. It has a rank 10 bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a really cool effect that isn't just damage. Each one of these, they do something unique that you're going to love to play around with. And there are multiple of these.
So how do we trigger the catalysts in the first place? How do we get those going?
That is a good question. There's even a lot of depth when it comes to that system, and I think the next slide is actually going to be the best thing to convey that. All right, so what we are looking at right here is the seasonal interface for Horadric
there is
spellcraft.
dash,
and if
skill,
you look,
ultimate.
you will see that there is actually a bar right there on the UI that kind of mimics your action bar interface.
Oh.
And if you notice, when the catalyst got placed into the slot, the action bar skill now has a purple blinking border around it. What does that mean? It means that your catalyst is now bound to that action bar skill.
And that's where the cooldown comes in,
like
right?
reinforcements from the
That's where
merc.
the cooldown comes in. The cooldown is the limiter, so you're not just going to always be able to press that button and make your catalyst fire off.
Right.
It's beholden to its cooldown. But thankfully, ranking up does lower the cooldown, so you're going to get more and more frequent use out of these catalysts as you rank them up and make them more powerful.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in this interface. Let's see what happens when this rogue presses the button with Celestial
So this is bound
Surge
to our
equipped.
own skills now. It's kind of cool.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. You see, that does most of the talking for itself. So basically what just happened is that the rogue threw the smoke bomb. And the smoke bomb was the guiding factor for the catalyst. And the catalyst created that arcanic Horadric rune on the ground right where the smoke bomb landed.
No, this is not boss powers
It
with another
did
skin,
its pulling
sir.
effect,
This is functionally
and then that
different.
barrage of stars just started doing their work randomly all over that area. What do you guys think? Is that pretty cool?
That's pretty neat. And that's only like one of the possible combinations, right? Because like you have one catalyst there and you assign it to a specific skill, but you could pick any of the catalysts and you could assign it to any of the skills.
So we're
that
going to
the
have
boss has available
6
to it.
spells
and
on
the way
6
that
skills.
the catalyst interacts changes based
gonna be
on
a
the kind
firework.
of skill you're using, right?
Exactly. So think of it like an extension of your skills. You know, it's going to feel very natural and organic as you're, what's the term, invoking these into combat. So, yeah, go ahead, Jarvis.
I really
But
like
it's
how
not
you
done,
get to
chat.
choose
There
like,
were
when you
more
deploy this
options.
in combat, right? If you want it on smoke
Chat.
bomb, it's like, okay, I
There were
want to
more
be CCing
options.
in enemies, or like I know there's a clump of enemies there, so I can deploy this at a key time. Or if I like don't want to think about it too much, like I just want it to happen as much as possible, right? I'll just. The
problem is, what if I don't use 6
all the
skills?
time, and it'll happen like
Chat.
as often as it can, and like you get that choice in how you want to deploy.
As a
these.
Bloodwave
Exactly.
Necro, I
And
use
like
2.
I said, it's going to feel natural. If you're a Sork and you put it on Flame Shield, it's going to summon on your character.
Right.
If you're using a ranged ability, it's going to go where the ranged ability lands. If you're using a melee skill, it's going to be in melee range on the character you hit. It's just
boss powers are
going to
going
feel
away,
like what
Evan.
you would expect it to be. You know?
Yeah, so the catalyst just really flows around however
Maybe
you
time
want
to use all
integrate
skills,
it
yeah,
into your,
Is
play
that
style
good?
effectively.
Exactly.
Do you want to use all
we don't
6
want to
skills?
spoil all of the catalysts. We want you to experience them on the PTR, but we do have one more for you to look at right now that's really cool. So let's go to that tooltip. So this is the Cosmic Anomaly. This is a summons type. We know players love summons. It's going to scale off summon damage bonuses naturally because it has the tag. It has a passive and an active component.
Manifest anomalies that emit
For
particles?
those of you familiar with Druid Companions, this is going to feel really natural to you. It's that same kind of setup.
Wow, at
and,
5 anomalies, you're unstoppable.
I'm not even
Ooh.
going to mention the rank 10, but it's pretty insane. Like, just if you read it, that's a powerful effect. So when you reach that threshold, you are unlocking a whole new realm of power for your catalyst.
Huh.
And yeah, let's go see what this looks like. What does it look like in game?
I want to know what these 3
shiny.
symbols are.
So
The
shiny.
dash
Look at
symbol
that.
and
Very
the others.
lightningy.
Like, that's what's
Very
missing right now.
lightningy. Yeah, that's a... There it goes.
That's a real word, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna say it is.
Oh, I love this clip.
Oh, that's so satisfying. Okay, that's also a little
Ah, you can
heartless. I
bind
can't
them,
believe the
obviously,
necromancer would
to-
do that. Those are your friends, and you just send them to go explode? Unbelievable.
To the corpse,
But
bone
good
prison.
news, they come back. Your friends come back. So you can go send them over to
kinda
explode. They
cool.
do their thing, and then they always return to you.
Yeah, so the thing I really love about this clip in particular is that the Necromancer's chosen this catalyst and assigned it to Bone Prison, which is very clever because they also have a pull-in with Corpse Tendrils. And so what they do is they pull everything in with Corpse Tendrils and then cast Bone Prison, which invokes the Cosmic Anomalies and kills all of them while they're stuck all together inside the Bone Prison.
Exactly, well said.
But they didn't
there's
explain
so
the other
many
three symbols,
satisfying
Chad.
combinations for you to discover. We're going to leave it there, but let me tell you, the amount of depth in this system is so fun. We've had so much fun playtesting this internally. So,
Oh, yeah. I've been playing it quite a bit in the last couple of minutes or however long, and apparently I lose track of time while I'm doing it. No, it's great. I love it. This is just such an awesome addition to the game.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Like, honestly, gotta say, like, so I did write the 230 PTR blog. I hope you all like it. But this is definitely a system, like, going in and testing it out before to then help write the blog. I was like, the blog is not going to cut it in terms of listing out all the different tools, like the way all the different aspects of the Horadric spellcraft interface together. It's really something that you need to go in and play test yourself because of all the different combinations, all the way the different
Game
powers
presenting
interface
seems a
with
bit
each
green,
other.
Chobi. I think it's his first time being on live stream presenting something. So I guess we can cut him some slack.
And you get that opportunity.
He's
How about
nervous
that?
as fuck. You see him fidgeting.
Going forward,
he's,
we
like,
have something cool to
he's
show
shaking
you.
internally.
We've talked a lot about catalysts.
Okay, that's an infusion now,
let's talk
Chad.
about infusions. This is another thing you can socket into your Horadric interface. And this is going to change the damage type, the elemental damage that your catalyst deals. And it doesn't just stop there. The damage type has mechanics attached to it that change its function too.
Right.
So what would you expect fire to do? Like, fire is destructive. It's really, it's all-consuming. So naturally, it's going to destroy enemy structures. What does that mean? I'm not going to tell you. But maybe you're going to see it in just a moment, actually. But I'm not going to tell you
your
for
fire
this time
damage bonus
right
is
now.
equal to that
And
of your
fire also
highest
creates
damage type
burning
bonus.
areas on the ground that will damage enemies that you keep in that area. And it doesn't stop there. I'm sorry, there's so much depth on these items, and there are 5 of them, right?
Does that
So
mean
you
if I
so
have
much
full
choice.
frost damage,
But also,
I can
while it's equipped,
get also
your
full fire damage
bonus
instead?
is equal to that of your highest damage type bonus.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
Yeah, so even if you're like playing like a frost sorcerer who just has like a lot of frost or cold damage, right? You can still use this, and it kind of benefits from all of your cold damage because all the elemental damage types kind of get equalized here.
So I could be, for example, a frost sorc, and I just have copious amounts of frost damage bonus, right? It's just it's flowing everywhere. I have too much of it. I swap in the poison infusion, and then suddenly I have an equal amount of poison damage bonus.
Right.
That's really cool because my poison catalyst is going to be hitting like a truck, and players love dealing lots of damage, right?
I love it.
But
I wonder if
also, and tell me if
damage
this is
from the
cool when you guys
catalyst
get in,
is gonna
get
be
to play test with
significant.
it, the possibilities expand even more because now I'm a sorc that has a lot of poison damage. And
What does
Ariel's
that mean?
visage?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to throw that on my helmet now? I don't know. I've never really had that
That kind of build crafting opportunity.
kind of build crafting opportunity. So there's so much there. Just can't wait to see everyone's reaction when you all
Barbarian
play
can do
with it.
100%
So
fire
just to make
damage
sure I
bonus,
get this
Chad.
right. I have my
With a helmet.
catalyst. That's what we see visually in these clips here, like those cosmic anomalies.
See, now they're doing
and
fire
we
damage,
just talked
Chad.
about infusions, and infusions change the elemental damage type specifically of my catalyst, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So as you're seeing right here, he's swapping out the lightning gem
The infusion
with
gets
a
pulled in the
fire
middle,
gem.
okay.
And now look at them. They're all fiery. They have smoldering flames. And watch this. When they combust, look at it. There's a burning patch on the ground. And you can get multiple of those. It isn't just always going to be one.
So
this
there is fire,
destruction
frost,
incarnate,
poison,
right? This is cool.
lightning,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
ice.
And each infusion has like their own secondary
Or shadow effect.
damaging or just not necessarily damaging, but just effect that they apply as
Fire,
well.
frost,
in
shadow.
Fire's case, it's the burning.
Yep,
Ice,
it is
lightning.
layers on top of layers, right? So again, we're so excited. For people that were closely
Leveling
reading
will be
that
great with this
tooltip on the
invoice, for
infusion
sure.
page, you might have seen a rank 5 bonus. Even more depth. We keep talking about depth. That rank, that rank 5 bonus, we're going to get into it right now. Basically, it allows you to deactivate monster affixes depending on the damage type you are using. So what would you expect fire to deactivate? Well, it makes sense that thematically it would deactivate chilling winds. Those are those like icy winds that monsters can summon in. They like slow your projectiles.
Yeah.
So annoying.
No one likes being slow.
I was just playing a
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, I was
Gotta go
playing
fast.
a Blood Spear Necromancer,
And then
Season
it
8,
just,
and the
slows
Chilling
down.
Winds were so annoying.
Oh yeah.
So let's look at a clip and see Chilling Winds being deactivated.
Okay, so you do this, then you use your power.
So this is a different catalyst than we've seen before,
And
right?
it
This one draws like a
deactivates the Chilling
damaging
Winds.
beam.
That seems more
Yeah,
gimmicky
so
than really useful.
This is Disintegrate. It is another catalyst. We're not going to show you the tooltip
Right?
about all its possibilities and what it does.
But it just,
yeah, you'll see that the
seems
moment
a
he
bit
deactivates the
gimmicky,
monster, those Chilling
right?
Winds just
Do we
disappear.
really need? No.
And they will stay disappeared as long as they are, consistently deactivated. So as you know, this is going to be very satisfying to use. Like, you're going to be able to swap these in, and if certain monster affixes just
not
ruin your day
breathtaking,
and
not
you really
crazy,
dislike them,
still
well,
good.
they're just gone like that. And we have one more clip to show you. Yep, so, okay, there we go. The Waller wall is just gone. This is also fire because I talked about structures. That's Waller walls. That is lightning totems, those like things that arc lightning damage, the red lightning damage all around the arena. That is tether points, those things that like chain you to the ground. Fire destroys all of those. So we're going to leave it at that. We hope you really have
at least
fun
we can
playing
destroy
around
the
with
walls
that.
finally.
Yeah.
No more
So-
Wallers.
Yeah.
The Nightmare Dungeon
If you
rebound was
hate
already chronic. You
Wallers,
have to go back.
Yeah.
Your
It's
problems
great.
have your prayers have been answered.
That's great.
Yeah.
So the
I mean,
Nightmare
that's super
Dungeon
handy 'cause now
rebound
if you're
is
going
it's
into
already
Nightmare
done. We
Dungeon
talked
has
about that
particular
already.
Monster affix. You can just
Sorry.
slap in whichever with whichever infusion you need, and then you won't have to deal with it.
Exactly. So yeah, there's going to be so much choice here to like swap things on the fly and react to things
Since
to
it's
kind of suit
bonus,
your play
it might
style.
be gimmicky,
And that's really
but it's either
cool.
to
That's
have or
really
not to have.
exciting.
Right?
But wait, there is more. We have more in this system for you. Actually, we have 3 more socket spaces of things you have to think about while you are designing your spell. So let's get into that. So
Okay.
we have Arcana. Arcana are going to be dropping in seasonal content randomly in the released version of this season, but on PTR we're just going to be giving it to you, so you'll be able to play around with all of them. But Arcana are like, think of them like the tuning knobs for your powers. These are small, subtle effects that when you add 3 of them, they really kind of tailor the power, the catalyst,
Okay.
to your play style.
Yeah, so we have. Okay, so let's recap
The catalyst
again really
destroys enemy
quick.
barriers.
We have
That's
the
insane.
catalyst, which is the visual effect. We have the infusion, which determines the catalyst's elemental type and gives it fancy bells and whistles. And then we have the Arcana, which even modifies it further. And like we saw there, like you could make it bigger.
Okay, we
or
can
you
only
could
use one
give
catalyst,
yourself
guys. That's
a
clear
buff
now.
when you use your catalyst.
One catalyst bound to one skill.
So like, let me just walk you through these 3 Arcana right here. So I picked these 3 because they kind of show off different reasons you might use an Arcana. So starting on the left side with Gleaming Conduit, it increases the effect size of your catalyst. What does that mean? Let's go back to the first catalyst we showed off. It was the Celestial Surge where you had the stars raining from the sky. That's a randomized pattern, right? That's a bit of a downside. But with this placed into the socket, suddenly those stars are creating bigger impacts when they land on the ground.
Right.
Meaning by swapping in this Arcana, you are overcoming a bit of that downside and you are making that damage more consistent and just more overall impactful.
Yep, and that's just going to apply differently to each catalyst.
Yeah.
Any builds coming to mind yet?
For
Nah,
Tranquil
Joey.
Stone,
We got
I'm
PDR,
actually
and
just
then
gonna
we'll
throw
test
this over
everything.
to Charles. Charles,
We got to see all the
what
powers to
class
really
might
determine
be
what's
happy
useful,
about
what's not.
this Arcana.
I mean, I've heard some classes, Necromancer, talking about how they don't have too many options for Unstoppable. Well, now you have many options, 5 different catalyst options, and tons of different ways to invoke it to gain that Unstoppable. So, Necromancers, look out for that Tranquil Stone.
Exactly, yeah. So this kind of goes to that philosophy of these will kind of fill in holes. Oh my gosh, taking my... One sec. Okay. Technical difficulty aside, I can hear again. Tranquil Stone will
For
basically
this system to knock out of the park,
overcome
they
some
need to grab
downsides
people
of your
right away and let
class. It
people
will,
tinker with this stuff within the
fill in
first 10
holes
levels
and
and
allow
out.
you to
That's,
overcome
I guess, the
things
intention.
you lack, and that's really cool. And then Potent Alloy. Alloy?
Alloy.
Alloy? Alloy? Okay, I pronounced it correctly. Potent Alloy. we talked about how infusions interact
I like
with
that you can
monster
destroy
affixes.
Berea. That's kind of
You're
useful.
even going to find some Arcana in the mix that will also additionally interact with even
They're
more
really
monster
annoying Berea
affixes.
monsters,
Right.
but
So
it
if
also
that
knocks
really
down
suits your
for
play
5
style,
seconds after
feel free to,
removal. Wonder if
place
it
those
always
in.
knocks down, even if it doesn't do Berea removal.
But wait, there's a little bit more. We're getting there, but there's a little bit more. There are also legendary Arcana. And when we think about legendary Arcana, we're not really thinking about pure player power. We're thinking about how hard they are to understand, the depth of them, right? There's just a lot going on. And what do I mean by that? So there are 5 legendary Arcana that you can discover out there. And as you see in this slide right here, we have Nightmare Orb. But if you look at it, it changes. What's going on? So let's start on the left side.
Okay, so it's a fear effect.
So on the
but it
left
works
side,
on
your
anomalies.
Nightmare Orb is speaking to the Cosmic Anomaly catalyst from before.
Oh, yes.
And it adjusts its effect to match it. So when you put this on your pet summons catalyst, suddenly they're going to have this little aura around them where as they run into enemies, they're going to fear and slow them. But if we go to the right side,
Fear's terrible.
the Nightmare Orb is talking to Celestial Surge. And this does a completely different effect. It's going to fear unaffected enemies. But once the fear ends, you have a chance to create even more stars.
So these legendary Arcanas care about each individual catalyst then?
Yep, exactly. So the same legendary Arcana has 5 different variations
this Arcana's horrible.
to wrap
No one
your
will
head
play
around.
it,
And there
ever.
are 5 of these. So 5 times 5. I'm going to say the keyword one more time. I'm sorry. That's a lot of depth.
So I feel like you've just presented to me and us a unfathomable amount of combinatorics, Liam.
Yes. Yes, I did. Okay.
Could you
my
show us a
earpiece has
full
fallen out
build
now, like,
spell,
5
please?
times,
So the funny thing is, if
that's
you
a
guys remember
record.
from last stream, Adam's earpiece was falling out all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
We actually changed that, and I got the souped-up earpiece. So this
So
baby,
unfair.
that's locked in,
So
and we're gonna be getting those
unfair,
for the rest of the stream. So as Liam struggles, I benefit.
I'm good for like a minute, and then it's probably going to fall out again. Actually, I already feel it falling out. Don't worry about it. Instead,
all
we
good.
have some really cool video content to show you while the rest of us just talk broadly about this system and why we're so excited. So, everybody, the floor is open. What is your favorite combination? What are you the most excited about?
This is no,
when it
don't
comes
do
to
that.
these,
That's the most
spells?
useless thing if we can't play around with
Yeah,
this.
I really think that I love finding ways to get my ultimate cooldown really low so that I can trigger it on my ultimate constantly. It kind of mixes really, really well. I'm just playing like an ultimate build in general.
Because we
It's
don't know
really
what
fun.
we're seeing, right?
Yeah, I've got a soft spot for summons. I really love the Cosmic
it's
Anomaly.
nice that you give
I
us
love,
video
just having a bunch
content
of
and
guys
we
out
have
there,
no
even if they're
context.
floaty, glowy orbs of elemental destruction, and love commanding them.
No.
and
So
having them go
Catalyst
explode.
is the
That's
spell
really fun for
that
me.
gets
Yeah,
bound
I've
to
been
your
a big fan of
spell.
playing Barb lately, but I find when I get
Infusion
into the higher
changes the
tournament here,
element
you're just, like,
of your
so up
catalyst
and close
and of your
taking damage
attacks.
that
The
the stride
Arcana
really does get a bit
gives
more
it
difficult.
bonus
So, like,
effects.
having the ability to use some more like ranged abilities then
Size,
throw,
Unstoppable,
my
Destroy
spellcraft
Berea, and
out
so on.
and then kind of do some
And there are
CC
30
while I am looking up
components.
close and personal, and like I'll probably play
6
a rogue next season
catalysts.
too. So in a similar vein, like being able to kind of like still have those
5
damaging abilities
infusions.
that are will do damage over distance while being able to like kill in the
19
corner. It's nice to just
Arcana.
like influence those play styles.
Yeah, definitely. So again, so much content here. We are unbelievably excited for you guys to get into
Interesting
the PTR
system. The
and try
presentation
these
wasn't
out.
very good.
Yeah.
Again, we've had so much
We'd
fun
love them to show us
playtesting
more
them,
stuff.
and we can't wait to see what everyone thinks about it.
5 Legendary
I
Arcana.
feel like
Thank
I
you,
got into
Roger.
a state where like I was playtesting Horadric spellcraft, and I was like, the time just started slipping away because like I just started being like, well, what if I like did this catalyst with this infusion and then applied it to this skill? Oh, and now this Arcana matters, and that just happened again and
There's
again and
definitely
again.
gonna
And
be
it's just so much fun. to play
Time
with.
until
Yeah.
the perfect things are found
It's
out,
a
right?
really, really intricate system.
It's going to take a bit.
I just want to throw it to Aislinn, and I get to say one more thing.
Do it.
There's more.
There's more. There's
Yeah.
already enough, Liam.
Yeah.
You think we need more?
Yeah, you want to
Oh
throw
my
a
God.
whole another layer on top of this, Liam?
Yeah.
You crazy man.
Well, yes, you are correct. There is more. There are Horadric jewels. Horadric jewels are what you might be reminded by, you might be reminded, excuse me, I can speak English. Occult gems from Season 7. They are very similar to occult gems from Season 7, we have a lot of similar effects on Horadric jewels that you might have seen from Season 7 Occult Gems, but we've added lots of new shiny layers of paint and glorious effects to these Horadric jewels, and we've also really brought them in and both aesthetically and mechanically unified them with Horadric spellcraft. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be finding these Horadric jewels through tomes starting in Torment 1. So once you actually get to the end game, you'll start finding the ability
it's armor resistance to all elements?
Craft these Horadric jewels. You can then, once you've found the tome, take it to a crafting station and actually craft it with the seasonal currency Horadric files and gem fragments. And don't worry, it's not as many gem fragments as occult gems. If you have PTSD
PTR
from that,
launch,
like
5
I do.
days.
It was a little expensive back then.
It was a lot. And yeah, you can then just socket them into your jewelry sockets and just pump up your build even further. And what our first example here is Liminal Echo, which you might actually recognize as an occult gem in terms of a cheat death. But we have reflavored it and rethemed it and
I think this one's unnecessary because you don't die anymore.
Which is a different one of the catalysts that we didn't actually
I hope they don't
show
put
here,
that in
but you
HC
will-
mode. You don't
will
have
see
to
that
play it
in
in
the
HC
PTR.
mode.
And it makes you invulnerable, and then it has an ICD. But yeah, we have way more Horadric jewels than just that. There are 15 total. They all do lots of crazy different stuff. So we're going to go over some of our favorite here just to give you guys a sneak peek. So the first one is Tyrant Bane. You can look over that text there, and
If
you
you
might
damage over
think to
time to
yourself,
enemy, they take more
is
damage
this
over
Bane
time
of
from
the
you
Stricken?
forever. Oh, what?
And the answer would be, yes, it is. If you are a D3 enjoyer, it is Bane of the Stricken for dot builds. I'm very personally excited about that one.
Oh.
The second one we have is the Starflux.
That is nice.
This one is fantastic. It's just punch you in the teeth, straight value, double your catalyst damage. That's a lot of damage, though, so if you do want to do that, you're probably going to lose control of your Horadric spellcraft to some degree, which causes your catalysts
Tyrant Bane
to
is
inherit their
crazy.
fusions randomly, so you don't actually get to determine or decide, rather, how that's going to happen. And then finally, we have Idol from Below. You may also recognize this effect from Occult Gems, but with a twist. And
That one sounds funny.
The twist is, it's probably fine.
Jeweled Guardians, I bet they're pushovers. But
Oh,
don't
yeah,
worry
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
No,
However, you will be
about
hunted
it.
in
No,
Sanctuary's
Focus on
darkest
the first
places
line
by
for that.
Jewel
That's the
Guardians.
important part.
What does that even
Max
mean?
Life, unhindered.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Absolutely.
Nothing else to worry about.
For sure, for sure. All right, and I think we have a video of the Starflux to kind of give you a sense of what that is like. So this is the Cosmic Anomaly Catalyst with the Starflux equipped. And you might notice that they have different infusions applied to them because it's determined
one is
randomly
lightning,
each
one is
time the
fire,
Cosmic
one is
Anomaly
shadow.
comes out. And this can be really actually interesting because, Liam, to your point before, different infusions deal with different enemy affixes. So if you have the Starflux equipped and Cosmic Anomalies, you might actually be able to deal with a bunch of different enemy affixes simultaneously, which is pretty cool.
Exactly, and just look at that kaleidoscopic explosion, right?
Yeah.
So satisfying. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And we have, like I said, we have 15 Horadric jewels, and all of them do various wacky, amazing, cool stuff. So while you're experimenting with Horadric spellcraft and trying out all of the new
But
things
they like
in
bringing
Season
back old
9,
content because
slot some
a lot
those
of the
in
old
and see what
content was
kind of
good.
madness you can accomplish.
Yeah, not gonna lie, chat was pretty excited about the Horadric jewels. And like the Starflux, it looks absolutely nutty.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
really,
yeah.
really pumped to test it out.
Heck yeah.
A few call-outs for everyone watching as well. We will have a Q&A towards the end of the stream, so if you do have any questions for our development team, any questions for Dan, like what's the best way to make poutine gravy from scratch, you know, he's your guy for it. So we will have that towards the end of the stream, so drop your questions in chat. We do have community team members pulling those. And again, like, we want your feedback. That was a ton of information,
Oh, yeah.
a ton of systems, and we actually do have specific things that we're looking for in
Yeah.
terms of what we're seeking for each bit and component going in the 2.3.0 PTR.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you know, I guess I'll speak specifically to Horadric jewels. Gotta make sure I get the terms right.
I gotta say, I really
yeah,
like
so
the
we wanna
Nightmare
hear what you
Dungeon
guys think about all
rework
the
so
different
far,
Horadric jewels.
but we're
We
still
wanna
not
know,
getting
like,
new endgame
do these
content,
effects
which
feel
is a
correct?
problem.
This is the perfect time
end of
to
the
give
day, we
feedback
end up in the
on
pit again.
Just straight up bouncing. Does this give you enough
one
bonus
problem.
damage? Does this give you too much bonus damage? Does this feel good? Does it not feel good? Are the Jewel Guardians...
I don't worry about them.
Yeah, no, don't give us feedback on that part.
Bless
It's
us.
Maybe you
fine.
should
Still-
worry about them, you know? Maybe they need to get
But again, it's like
Yeah,
baby
yeah.
steps,
Surely it's
right?
Yeah,
we need
just,
leaps.
yeah, let us know about Horadric jewels, and of course, I'm sure you'd love to hear people's thoughts about
Definitely.
Spellcraft.
For Horadric spells, please just let us know how it feels both in early and late game. I know it's PTR, a lot of people are going to be mainly jumping into the late game, but early game is also really helpful. We want them to feel really cool and satisfying to use in all realms of content. We also just want to know about the effects
they'll
themselves.
take an endgame with you in front of Horde's
Does anything
overhaul.
feel off?
Season 11.
Do we need to
season 10.
tighten up cooldowns or things like that? Just get into the weeds with it. We will definitely be reading through as much as we can.
They believe
and
this
making
is
these spells
endgame
the best they
content.
can be for launch.
Yep, and now's the time to
That's
get that
the
feedback,
problem.
tune those knobs. It's the
And
it's
it
the
is
best time to
endgame
do it.
content, but it's
and
no
for everyone
chase content.
watching from home, we also will have the D4 patch notes and the blog hitting after the stream. So if there's anything you missed on the stream, that will be available for you to read in depth and disseminate over the weekend before you jump into the PTR. But I know one of the biggest parts of the patch notes has to do with class balance, and we do have some.
Yeah.
Okay, surprise
Charles,
us.
you got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah,
We got a
I
beefy
got
section.
some notes here. We
you've been
got
cooking.
lots to talk about. You know, I kind of teed it up at the start of the stream how we kind of think about class balance currently. But of course, it's an ever-changing process, and we always want to be giving new things to play with, new ways to play Diablo 4, and so there's lots of updates this season with that in mind.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the changes that affect all classes in some way before getting into each individual class.
Please
and talk
don't
about some
ruin
new stuff
Overpower.
coming for them.
It's
These are kind
Overpower
of
nerfs,
changes
guys.
that
If they
are
ruin it,
global
we're screwed.
or affect everybody. So first up, Overpower has been overpowered for a while. We should have seen that coming with the name. Oops. Yeah, it has been really like just one of the strongest things you can be doing across any class for the past handful of seasons now. And so we're definitely taking a big swing at it here in Season 9. So Overpower's initial design philosophy was it was supposed to be a stat that tankier kind of builds, things that have like that strong defensive fantasy, things like Werebear, Barbarians, Blood Necro, could build these defensive stats like max health and fortify, and convert that into offensive power. That's the initial design conception of it, and which is why whenever you did Overpower, you got bonus damage in based on the amount of maximum life and fortify that your character had. This ended up being a lot because it was kind of tied to the ratio of how much of health you already had. I don't want to get in too deep into the math here, but basically it was a lot of additive damage. So it would be the equivalent of you having like plus 1,000 or more % damage on your gear when you overpowered. And that led to Overpowers being extremely strong, far more than, say, Critical Strike, for instance.
And even dominating builds that.
The problem is if they nerf Overpower,
benefit from that
like Torment 4 will be
saw
even harder.
Every class was trying to overpower,
if not impossible
so
for certain
valuable.
builds. If they don't rebalance the other damage.
It's so good to just stack max life,
yes.
right? So it was like you're doing a ton of damage and you're doing the right thing by stacking max life because it's so potent, right? So it was very dominant for that reason.
Right, and so in this season, in Season 9, we're going to be making an update to that additive portion, the additive damage that you get from the Overpower, that messy behind-the-scenes formula that you would get, essentially reducing it by 80%. So if you used to get 1,000% bonus damage there, it's only going to be 200 here in the PTR. It still gives a multiplicative bonus, just like Critical Strikes, because it's still rare. It's still you need to work to get your Overpowers online, just like Critical Strikes. So it's still going to be powerful. Overpowering is still going to be better than not doing it, but it won't be so infinitely far ahead like we've seen it. We definitely want a lot of feedback on this because we know it's been the real big talking point of a lot of different meta builds right now. Feels like you need to
let's hope that the additive damage rebalance makes up for it.
We don't want everybody
Otherwise,
to feel
we're
like you have
screwed.
to do it all the time in order to optimize your damage. So we definitely want to make sure that we open up possibilities to other classes. Kind of tied in with that, the additive damage rebalance. So that's the base power of Overpower we talked about. Another contributing factor was that whenever you got overpower damage on your items, it was just overstated. We balanced those initially when earlier on in the game's lifetime when we had a different estimate of how often players would be overpowering or doing any of these kind of conditional effects like Critical Strike or dot damage or what have you. So we've done kind of a comprehensive pass on items, the base affixes that show up this season, and said, okay, Critical Strike damage, we're going to give you an equivalent amount of Critical Strike damage and Overpower damage if it appears in the same spot. Previously, it was something like you would get a one-handed weapon, and it would literally have almost 200% Overpower damage at an Ancestral, and it would give like 55% Critical Strike damage. And that's just way too different,
so
right?
Just
like
give us
that
more
was
crit,
one reason,
not less
why would I
Overpower.
build crit damage when I can build Overpower and get 4 times the benefit? So we're looking to renormalize that and kind of establish a better baseline of comparison of these stats against each other. This affects everybody in some way. As you're building your items, you're going to be looking for different stats. The numerical values will be different there. But we think it gets into a much better state for allowing you to go, for vulnerable damage, for crit damage, for summons damage, and not feel like you're doing it wrong because it wasn't Overpower, right? Next, we've got a basic skill buff. There's a lot of things that affect every class this season.
Yeah.
So talking about basic skills, this is kind of an initiative where we are starting here to really comprehensively look at all of the skills.
I know what they want to do with the Overpower nerf, but they also need to reduce monster life, or this is a horrible change.
Sometimes we've had some basic skills.
All builds we have been doing this season, Blood Wave,
negative damage. You think like you're healing the enemies.
Suddenly not able to do Torment 4 anymore.
Other ones that you can actually really build a
even
full
Death Trap Rogue.
Basic skill build around.
Immense nerf.
It has good base damage, has whatever effects. We've done a comprehensive pass on every single basic skill in the game, and
this is a PTR change, guys. It can still get adjusted.
I say
we need to test this.
Double or triple their damage output for the most part. Literally, skills that used to do like 20% of your weapon damage now do like 60 or 80%. Just massive increases on every single basic skill in the game. Now, that's to help them kind of compete kind of right out of the box. You get a basic skill, you press the button, it feels impactful. That's the goal.
Right.
We do want still basic skill oriented builds in the late game to exist, but of course if we just tripled or their damage output, that would cause some of them to be kind of way too good on some ends.
Yes.
So we have adjusted some of the scalars that you see on some of the legendary and unique items that talk to basic skills in particular, brought them down a little bit. We still want them to be competitive and probably better this season than they have been in the past, but we're just we're not trying to triple every single basic skill. We want to make sure that it smooths out that progression.
Right.
I will say that this is, we looked at basic skills here in this season. It's an initiative where we're going to be looking at other categories of skills in future seasons. So
how many basic skill builds we know that people play this season.
Comprehensive balance passes for future seasons as they come down. So your feedback on exactly how we landed on this basic skill pass is really helpful to help inform, like, hey, is our methodology, our comparison right, and were the tuning on these accurate?
That's not true. We have a Thorn Spirit Born who uses a basic
this is
skill.
a relatively quicker point. So right now on live, if you your maximum resistance for every element is capped at 70%. Now on the PTR, it'll be capped at 75% baseline, so everyone can get a little bit more resistance.
Overpower was obviously that was coming, yeah, but it's an overreaction
still
so
85
far.
If you get some maximum resistance effects.
The problem is not the Overpower nerf. The problem is what it means for the game.
Resistance capped. In exchange, there were some
because
unique items that were that had just a whole bunch of
the damage
all
back.
resistance on them, like Yen's Blessing, some boots that just gave you like 50-some% maximum resistance to all elements. Those ones
too much of it a little by itself.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those outliers that really solve your resistance a little too easily, we're going to tone those down a little bit. But kind of in exchange, we give everyone the option to build a little bit more to make sure that building up resistance has a kind of a meaningful journey to it. And finally, on this slide that affects all characters, the key passives. We've also done a pass, much like with basic skills, to look at our various key passives that affect every build and kind of look at their relative power level. And a lot of the outliers that we've seen in class balance historically have come from a key passive that just scales kind of infinitely, right? You build up some critical strike damage, which increases your other damage, and that just scales infinitely. And that causes builds that can use that key passive to be far more powerful than builds that use other key passives.
I hope you're not saying nerf. I hope you say we're buffing weaker ones.
So with that in mind, we looked at every key passive, and we've set a bar of about 75% multiplicative damage bonus. So if it just said do increase damage, it would say 75% increase. Right. Now some will have more conditions. It only affects certain types of damage, and so we budget those a little bit higher.
Let's make key passes boring.
But anything that had like a previous uncapped scalar, we're going to put a cap on it to make sure that it kind of hits that 75% mark. And even a handful of some key passives that were underperforming that mark, that were not quite that good, have gotten buff up to try to let them compete. And so builds that got some of those buffed key passives will be really happy to see that too.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll just make a comment. We're not the fun police, right?
No.
We're not coming here to ruin your day, but what we are doing is we want to make a more consistent experience for our players.
I know
and
what
we
they're
want the
trying to
pieces
do,
fit together naturally. Your progression
but it's
is
kind of going to
smooth.
make
There's
them
all these
boring
puzzle
because
pieces, they just
there's
make
going to be
sense
5
as you
key
stack
passives
them
and
up.
each just do 75 damage, and
we
you
wanna
just
move away from
choose
having
which
such
one you
extreme
need. But
outliers.
Yeah, the extreme balance outliers are really what kind of
if there's no
can kill
outlier,
the
then
fun
there's
of the
no
game.
fun.
If you're like, hey, I want to play, whatever kind of build you want, but then you see somebody else doing something different, and you're like, oh, they are 100 times better than me. It actually does affect how much fun you're having because you feel
I'm
like
just
you're
not
playing
sure how they
suboptimally.
expect us to do Tournament 4 now
By kind of
with
bringing some of
certain
these
builds.
more in line to a kind of a budget of power that we want from certain sources, we help to eliminate those outliers that are like miles ahead of everybody else. With that in mind,
right now,
we
Earthquake Bar,
think that this is
unless they're nerfing it even
going to
further.
promote better build diversity, of course, as you can play more options, and it won't feel as bad that you aren't being left behind.
I wonder what the creator Discord is saying.
All right,
throw an
so
eye on
let's move on to the individual class changes. Those affect everybody, but of course, every class gets some new stuff to talk about here. And first up, we've got barbarians. So for the barbarian, the big talk of them for a while has been earthquakes in particular. Barbarians love to, stomp on the ground, and they stomp so hard that they make some earthquakes. Those have been extremely powerful for a handful of seasons, and we know that there's other fantasies to explore in barbarian other than just earthquakes. And so we have done some updates to kind of bring down some of the power level of Earthquake, specifically on its legendary Paragon node, the Force of Nature, that gave it a ton of multiplicative damage on the Earthquakes. That has been brought down quite a bit. To the second bullet point here, a lot of the legendary Paragon nodes in Barbarian, Paragon, and across every other class has been kind of simplified. Some of them used to have effects, which was like, do a thing to get a buff, to give you some damage, and it stacks up to 5 times, right?
Yeah.
It would be like kind of a multi-step thing for
some builds
a
not
Paragon
seeing
node,
T4 is
which,
perfectly
we
fine.
thought that's
Disagree.
maybe a
Every
little bit
build
more
should see
complex.
T4.
It's asking you a little bit too much. So we've simplified them, and often it's just like, hey, do a
Thank you for
thing,
your
get a
support.
bonus, and that's it.
Right.
And specifically on Barbarian, I think they got some of the bigger updates in that regard. And in a lot of cases, the Paragon become even more powerful because you don't need to stack it up 5 times or whatever it might be. You just get the bonus right out of the gate. So they are
Chat,
slightly
they're
more
also
powerful.
buffs, but for some reason they focused on the nerfs.
I'm so sorry.
A little bit.
This is just
some of these,
look
it
at
may
it.
feel
So
that way,
there's
yeah.
certainly going to be also buffs.
Additionally, we've got a new
underused
unique
skills.
item this season. We know that players love playing with Bash Cleave from a while back, and now what if every other one of their basic skills could cleave? Well, have I got the unique for you? And it's my favorite named unique in this season, which is saying something.
It's true.
It is the Hooves of the Mountain God.
So good.
So, Hooves of the Mountain God, whenever you attack with a basic skill while you're at maximum fury, you kind of enter this state where your fury is going to be draining, and you're kind of empowered here, and during that time, your basic skills will cleave and deal increased damage. All of your basic skills will do that while you're empowered here. And of course, your fury is draining, so you're going to want to keep spamming those basic skills to rebuild it back up and kind of maintain that state as long as possible.
Yeah, so at this point, with this unique, you really care about generating a tremendous amount of fury, but it's not actually to cast a core, it's just to keep going.
Yeah, keep going and keep hitting with your basic skills that are just hitting hard and cleaving all around you.
Pretty awesome.
I guess.
We got a video clip
sure.
here of this in action. Of course, we've seen Bash Cleave before through some of the tempering affixes. That tempering affix is going to be updated to give another multiplicative bonus to Bash here, but because now it can cleave through this unique, and of course you can mow through a whole set of skeletons here.
So
with your
right-click
bash
build.
while your fury is draining.
Yeah, I love that, the part that's coming up where, yep, one hit, they're just all to the side.
Oh, yeah.
Get
Poor
out of here.
skeletons. Oh my goodness.
All right, we've got
GA
next
triple,
class, we've
the
got the Druid to talk
Hooves of the
about.
Mountain
All
God
so
is going to give you so
Druid
much.
this season, the talk of the Druid has been Cataclysm for a while. A couple points on that. So a lot of Cataclysm, it's this long-lasting ultimate, right? You
Goodbye,
press
Cataclysm.
you get the storm around you, it lasts a while. And it suffered from some, like, we call snapshotting, where you get a buff or some effect that says, hey, your next
It was
skill
nice
cast
while it lasted.
does increase damage, or it has some effect. And when you press Cataclysm, it's obviously a very long effect, and it benefits from that
They
effect.
started the
From
stream so
the
good,
bonus
and
damage
then
to your
they
next cast. That's actually intended, right? When we say
nosedived.
your next cast, we mean the whole cast. Cataclysm is a great thing to do that
Yikes.
on. That being said, we do find that Cataclysm being the only way to play Druid, or at least the only kind of competitive way to play Druid, is not really healthy, because we know that is a kind of mechanically
we'll find ways
intensive
to make
play
things
style.
work.
You need to think about buffs, you need to set it up kind of precisely. And for players who like that
But they
play
really
style,
focus on the
we'd
wrong
love to
things in
encourage
these
that.
talks,
But when it
you
becomes
know?
the only way, or the absolute best way, the kind of mandatory way to play a class, that's kind of unhealthy.
Right, you just
And
gave
so
people all
we've
cool,
done
interesting
some,
infos,
numerical
and now
nerfs
it's
to bring
like, hey,
Cataclysm and some of the
get fucked.
modifiers to it down to earth a little bit, so it will allow for other opportunities, other ways to play Druid in a competitive way. So some of those are Grizzly Rage. We've got updates to a lot of legendaries that used to talk to Grizzly Rage, and that does also remind me about what we're doing with legendaries this season as we talk about this. In previous seasons, we've always had a new unique item and a new legendary aspect for every class. Here for Season 9, we're just going to be doing a brand new unique item, and we're instead doing reworks to a lot of existing legendaries. So
that's
a
the new
handful of
content,
legendaries in
reworks
each
to
class have
existing
been,
stuff.
rather
That's
substantially
called a
reworked,
patch.
where we looked at them and we said, hey, we have a legendary that already talks to Grizzly Rage, but it kind of sucked. Right? And we said, well, rather than make a brand new one, let's take this existing one that really wasn't hitting that mark and then just like functionally change a lot of things to it. It may still have, you know, the same kind of theme, same kind
Rax
of niche.
is so mad. I mean,
probably
Rax
keeps
isn't
same
playing the
name
game
in a lot
anyways,
of
Brandon.
cases.
He's going to play it for one
But
day, make a
instead
State of
like
Diablo
adding a
video, and
brand
then
new legendary
I'll be
aspect
done with it.
that kind of dilutes the drop pool, right? Every
Tell me I'm wrong.
legendary we add makes it harder to find any in particular legendary.
You also don't want a situation where, like, if we leave that aspect not desirable, but then we make a new one that is, you're like, oh man, I really hope I find the good one and not the bad one. So that's another positive for this.
Exactly. So we've done a lot of updates in every class to take the bad legendaries.
There's a lot of talk and not
look
enough
to update them
information.
to support some of the new
Many
playstyles
blah, blah.
that we're interested
Not
in
much
encouraging
chop,
this
chop.
season. And so for Druid, several of the ones talking to Grizzly Rage and Poison in particular are going to be updated.
So benevolent of us finding homes for all these legendaries. You know, it's great. Like, now they have a home to go to. They actually hopefully find a new niche to fit into, and they won't be so sad off to the side and people pick them
Sir,
up.
don't
and
try
like,
to
no,
be funny
in the
when you're
gutter.
nerfing everything.
That's
not
absolutely
good.
the
It's
hope
not
is
helping
that we're able
your case.
to look at every legendary and unique item in the game and say, hey, you pick it up and you read it and you're like, oh, I see where this would be useful. And you would feel excited about it. It might not be the build you're currently playing, but you see that it does have a home and a niche. That's our goal. And we know that a lot of legendaries in the game right now aren't hitting that mark, and that's why we're focusing on rework.
There's a lot of
at least for this
useless
season.
legendaries.
With that in mind, with Grizzly Rage and some Poison updates, let's talk about probably one of my favorite visual uniques of the season. I call it splashing Poison Puddles, right? Because you know we're coming up on summer here. Everyone loves splashing in the sun, you know, playing in the water, but we're in Diablo in the World Sanctuary, and nothing's ever that wholesome. It's Poison Puddles. Let's take a look at the Rotting Lightbringer.
Okay.
So the Rotting Lightbringer, every 10 seconds when you cast Pulverize, it'll form a poison puddle where you pulverize.
Oh, Pulverize is back. Yes.
And if you pulverize
See, that has me
puddle
excited,
again,
guys. I love
then
Pulverize
it'll
builds.
splash additional % of that damage to enemies nearby. It'll like throw out some extra little projectiles of poison. And of course, you are splashing in the poison puddle to
so
damage everyone
Overpower,
around you.
Pulverize,
Sounds
400% damage increase as poison over time. And then,
Fun in the sun.
I don't know,
This is great
use your
fun in the
Catalyst
sun.
Poison Power to do
I think
something.
we got a video clip here of this in action, right? Of course, we're at the beach. Where else would you be? You splash, make a poison puddle, and as you do that, you know, little globs of poison.
Yeah,
go
I'm
out
fine.
and,
We can do that.
Get the enemies around
Poison
you.
Bear.
And this is
Let's
also
go.
marrying the concept of like poison.
Pulverize is my favorite druid skill. Mine
the theme
too,
in Druid of
Cameron.
Poison and Werebear, which has typically been for specifically Werewolf, but now we're seeing it here too.
Hey,
Druids
remember
are
in
the
Season 8 we
master
get a
of kind
new
of this
helmet
hybridization
for
and
human
mixing
form?
and matching,
Yeah.
these things. So we always love encouraging, you know, you finding ways to mix these up.
That one will never get played.
All right, enough on Druid. Let's talk about the Necromancer. So Necromancer has had some powerful ultimates as well.
They're going to
This is gonna
nerf
be a
Soul
common
Rift,
theme. A
and
lot of
that's
ultimate
good
skills have been
because Soul
quite
Rift is just
powerful recently.
overpowered. And I'm saying that as a
in particular, Soul
Necro.
Rift and Blood Wave. Now, Soul Rift is a skill which does
Skeletal Archmages.
everything, right? It does damage,
Gasp.
it gives you increased damage, it applies vulnerable, it gives you resource, gives you barrier, it restores your potion charges.
Yeah,
oh my
so
goodness,
many potions.
So we looked at all these things and said, well, we could like just chop down the numbers on some of these because like almost everyone is playing Soul Rift if you're not playing Bloodwave. It's like one of those two
Magikarp?
as a Necromancer.
Howdy, partner. Thank you for the gifted.
And we decided that the best course of action for
Archmages
Soul
could be
Rift
nice,
is to just kind of reduce some of its functionality. So it will still do all of those things except generate a barrier. The barrier generation was giving a little bit too much survivability, which we thought felt a bit more at home in like the Bone Storm or Bloodwave kind of world.
The barrier away
as
is
a kind of a more survivability ultimate.
crass.
Soul Rift will still give you lots of resource and still increases your damage by just a little bit instead of a ton. But we think that'll bring it a bit more down to earth and give some other options like Army of the Dead and Bone Storm a bit of chances to compete.
So overall,
this is a big change because it's kind of going to nuke a lot of
its kind of like
builds.
it's an engine for you, right? It sustains your potions, it gives you a sense,
Yeah.
and that's its big, gameplay niche.
Yeah, rather than being kind of your defensive tanky source.
I hope they
as
really
well
didn't
has
forget
been
about
kind of the
buffing older
other
skills
ultimate skill
in the
that
patch
most
notes later.
Necromancers have been building around. This one just does a ton of damage, and a lot of that has come from some of the unique items that interact with it. They give kind of a disproportionate amount of damage output increase to your Bloodwave, specifically Indira's Memory, which works on your pants, your leg armor. That's a slot which, for most characters that don't have a unique item, is not really an offensive slot. You can't really get a whole lot of bonus damage from that. And so we're looking to say, hey, any unique items that are on pants in particular, we're going to be looking to reduce the damage output of there. They'll still have some damage output, but not quite as much. And so that's where we're looking to reduce the power of Bloodwave.
I mean, it's not like they just nerfed Overpower, right? They're also nerfing Indira's Memory.
Things to play with on the Necromancer. You've got
Overpower damage nerf already ruins
Bloodwave. And so this comes
Bloodwave.
on the new unique, the Hand of Naz. So the Hand of Naz, new unique gloves, which if you really want to be playing a minion build, but you're like, I just want mages, maybe you're really vibing with the Horadric mage spellcraft theme of the season.
Oh wow!
If you sacrifice both your warriors and your golem, and so you are all in on mages, you get to summon additional mages for every minion that you've sacrificed.
Okay.
So if you used to have a whole bunch of bonus skeletal warriors, you now can get that many more mages. Once mages attack 25 times, they get to level up. They get rank up to a skeletal archmages. They get a little bit bigger. They get a little bit of a flashy visual, and the skeletal archmages will deal some bonus damage, and also whenever they are attacked, they will teleport away to safety because they are, they got a new skill. When you level up, you learn a new skill. Same thing with skeletal mages.
It's just the way it works.
Of course. So let's take a look at this in action. So you got just 4 mages here. Of course, you're going to be able to have more if you really spec into it. And as enemies come up and attack those mages, occasionally they will teleport away. Their attacks now
They should look different, but they don't look different. It's really disappointing.
And they've got a little like lightning effect on their hands, and they're a little bit bigger to show that they are.
Yeah, they don't look like archmages. They made them a little bit bigger with lightning effects on the hands. What is that?
With this unique, I can't
Bro,
actually have
give them
my
robes.
warriors or
Give
my
them
golem.
Right.
Like I don't know.
So now I'm
fancy hat.
the tank for my mages.
You do need to be tanking for your mages, right? It kind of turns the traditional minion playstyle of like, my minions go forward and protect me, and it turns it on its head, right? You have this powerful backline of a lot of mages who
That's
do
really
bonus
a
damage,
cheap graphical update.
but in exchange,
the
you
unique
need to
is
protect
great,
them. They can protect themselves a little bit,
but they don't.
with
That they
the,
don't get
the
turned into
teleport away
actual
to safety,
archmages is really
but
sad.
It's going to kind of be on you, the Necromancer, to be the
Change
front
their
line in this
color
kind of build.
for the love of God.
All right, next up, we've got the Rogue. So the Rogue, big talk has been their ultimate skills. Death Trap.
Yeah, Death Trap, goodbye. Overpower nerf plus bonus nerf.
They have been ultimate and very powerful for quite a while. Rogue's no exception. They've got Death Trap has been one of the most powerful builds for kind of 2 seasons in a row here. Similar to Soul Rift in a lot of ways, it kind of did a lot of everything. We also know that it did a ton of damage on its own right. And it also had a unique pants item, the Eyes in the Dark, that really talked to it and increased its damage output dramatically. So much in the line of our philosophy of, hey, pants armor shouldn't be so ridiculous amount of damage output. even if it is
Eyes in
unique.
the dark damage nerf.
We've done some tuning on the eyes in the dark to make sure that Death Trap is not quite as explosively damaging as it has been in the past. We are looking to buff up the Infiltrators and Bursting Venoms legendary items that talk to Poison Trap and Poison builds, and saying, hey, there's other traps out there. You can play Poison Trap. So giving a little bit more support here with those legendary reworks. And we also have some updates to Eagle Horn. This is the penetrating shot unique bow. Just some numerical buffs there to make sure it's actually hitting harder, and penetrating shot has a bit more of a reason to use it. We know that kind of ranged rogues have fallen out of favor for a while. It's been a lot more about melee, and I mean, Death Trap is even a melee kind of skill.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun. No,
players love to play ranged
these games
rogues
are
as well,
supposed
so
to be
we wanna make
grueling
sure that we give a
hard
little bit
and
more support to that to
disappointing.
enable it. For those who do like melee playstyles, but maybe not trap, you might like Flurry. And if so, we have got a great unique coming next season, the Death Mask of Nirmatruk. I definitely pronounced that correct. So you can now overexert yourself while casting Flurry. Well, that's a weird thing to say. What does that mean? It does mean that you spend your life total if you don't have enough energy. So energy, that's not a problem anymore. You have your whole life total to work with.
Spending life to cast Flurry increases its damage by 50%. Your attack speed by 50%.
Your life total, when you're kind of overexerted in this state, it's going to stack up a buff. It's going to increase the attack speed of Flurry, and it's going to increase its damage output for 5 seconds. So you really want to be in this kind of overexerted state. It doesn't actually do anything if you're not overexerting.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that you're getting to this state. I love how this kind of changes up some of your, like, how you think about your build. You don't necessarily want a lot of resource regeneration. You want more health regen.
This couldn't sound less exciting, by the way. The other unique so far good. This one just like. Just why?
Let's take a look at this in action. I actually really love this clip of the rogue just going super fast, right? So they sneak
you flurry, you go in the exertion state, and
like no resource. They go hyper fast. This is such a fast attacking skill when it's all stacked up.
Yeah, it's super fast attacking, and then you die when you use it. I mean, you can fix the life, don't get me wrong, but he just died almost using it here in a complete like Torment 2.
You just won't be able to cast it there.
Torment 2 normal Nightmare Dungeon.
And any stray attack might take you out if you're not super careful with it.
I will raise a flag for those of you curious about trying this out. It's called a Death Mask for a reason.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily be their death.
The other
yours, so
got cool things. This one is just
side, you do get a look like an
right
anime
now.
character zooming around like crazy. Like, look at that.
Absolutely.
Definitely hardcore players, beware with this one. Might be a little risky for you. All right, we've got the Sorceress next. So the Sorceress has been definitely one of our top builds this season, I would say, in Lightning Spear. And I think one of the big talking points around Sorceress for a while has been Lightning Spear. A lot of players have felt like that is the only or best way to play Sorc for a number of seasons now, and it's not just been one season here. And one of the reasons for that, I'd say the main reason, is that Lightning Spear baseline is pretty bad. Like, if you just get the skill on its own with nothing else, it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. But then you get Splintering Energy legendary, and suddenly it goes from 1 to 100 real quick.
Oh, yes.
Alexander, the first hour of the campfire was great.
Like one of the most powerful in terms of like how much percentage gain does it give the skill in question. Splintering Energy is like way far above really where we want legendary aspects to be. And that kind of speaks to this outlier concept we've been talking about, where when you have one particular source of power that is disproportionately valuable, like a key passive that scales crazy, or a Splintering Energy legendary, that's the only thing that matters, right?
Yeah.
Is that maximizing the damage of this one thing is the only thing
but it meant that when you get Splintering Energy, we're excited. Now you're going to get it, and you're going to be like, yawn.
Like, nothing else in your build mattered. It's just about that one effect, whether it be a legendary or key passive.
So you're kind of removing the power fantasy
and healthier class balance when that power is spread out among as many different sources that you might want as possible, rather than concentrated so intensely in one.
Right, and so this was definitely one of the most egregious examples, I'd say, of concentrating the power in a single spot in that Splintering Energy. aspect.
Uniques that build enable
with that in mind,
and legendaries?
We've taken the baseline Lightning Spear and buffed up its damage rather substantially. But of course, the Splintering Energy has dramatically been reduced in effectiveness. So overall, we still think the Lightning Spear builds are going to be brought down quite a bit because they were quite far above everyone else. They also definitely relied on some of the Overpower changes, they relied on Overpower to really get into the highest levels of pit pushing. And so that's Overpower.
I'm really not sure if they played all the builds in Torment 4 now.
In an exchange, we're looking at
going to be intriguing to see how they imagine this going to work.
Specifically with burning, as one of
the Overpower nerf also nerfs minion necro.
Key passive, the combustion key passive, was one of those that was kind of uncapped scaling. It wasn't necessarily problematic, but maybe that was really just because Lightning Spear crowded it all out. Same with like Enlightenment, kind of crowding out those options. We have put a cap on that, like we've said with the philosophy of making sure that no individual power source eclipses all others. But with that in mind, we did look at say, well, hey, this might be a little bit of a nerf to some other burning builds like Firewall or Incinerate. And so we've just done like a 25-ish% baseline buff to those burning skills just to make sure they can kind of be compensated for that. Similar with Enlightenment, that was another one of the key passives that kind of blew past our power budget, so we've done a bit of rebalancing there. But also,
Roger,
we've got
builds can reach tier 4,
unique,
but not
one
do
of my
Torment 4
favorites,
bosses.
huge Hydras.
Yes.
So this is the
chat has been very excited for this. They saw
really?
They saw huge Hydras.
Huge Hydras.
Like, whoa.
What's this? Yes. So we've got the Ophidian Iris. This is an ancestral unique amulet. And here,
so reaching Torment 4 is not the problem, but killing Torment 4 bosses, that would be a huge issue
from a lot of your core skill bonuses.
Incoming.
And it'll always summon a 3-headed Hydra rather than, even if you had more heads, if you had like plus Hydra heads, you're still only going to get 3. That's kind of the baseline number. But
for each head above 3 that it would have had, the Hydra insect grows larger and deals more damage. That's kind of cool.
Like 100% more damage per additional head. And so these big heads will also do splash damage rather than just a single target and hitting one enemy. They kind of explode on impact, just like they're shooting fireballs.
Yes.
And so this is going to turn your Hydra from like
this sounds like a fun build,
tiny hits into individual bigger hits with big Hydra heads.
So it's no longer about how many heads can I get on my Hydra. It's about how big can I make my baby Hydra.
Yes.
Excellent.
So it'll
Please
scale
show me a
with its
clip
damage
of
for
a
every additional
Hydra
head you
just
got.
bigger.
And of course, this has an inherent affix that casted Hydras do have +2 heads, which
there you go.
So you already have a bit of built-in multiplier on the amulet itself. So we've got a side-by-side comparison here, right? So on the left here, we've got the kind of baseline. You got 4 Hydra heads. They're fine. They're there. But after, if you really build up lots of bonus Hydra heads, you're only going to get 3, but they're gonna be much bigger than you, the character, and can be.
They should have showed us a picture with 5
running around the screen, and of course with splashing, explosion, fire attacks, it should be a lot more appealing.
Is this going to push Hydra up there? Well,
some other things on Hydra.
maybe.
We removed its baseline mana cost, increased its lucky hit chance, and also done some other modifications to Conjuration and Hydra legendaries, just to make sure that like kind of a Hydra build really makes a lot of sense.
I mean, unless the Horadric powers are giving us a lot of damage, I can't see any of my Torment 4 builds killing a Torment 4 boss with these nerfs.
And last but not least, we've got the Spiritborn. So the Spiritborn has been probably one of the classes that's been furthest behind, I'd say, in terms of on the current live season. And so definitely looking at...
Poison Thorns,
I think they're going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the basic skill rebalancing work that we did, where we looked at every basic skill and doubled or tripled the baseline values of a lot of them. But in exchange, some of the scalars on legendaries and uniques, we adjusted those downward a little bit. The net result is still that basic skill builds will be better than before, and I think Spiritborn is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Additionally, we've also got an update to the deflection aspect with Razor Wings build. Previously, this was one of those legendaries that didn't really have a home. It dealt like a
why they nerf Necros so much? They're actually not nerfing Necros so much. They just fix Overpower, and Necros is only strong because of Overpower.
0 is 0. Yeah. So now it's going to increase the Razor Wings itself damage when you reflect them with this deflection kind of gameplay. And so just a little bit more kind of multiplicative damage support for Razor Wings build. Following with the theme of ultimate skills on all classes, as well being kind of a little too strong. The Hunter ultimate, the Jaguar ultimate, has been the ultimate on Spiritborn since its launch that really every Spiritborn player has used. I think like something like 90+% of Spiritborn players are using the Hunter currently. And that's great that you're having a lot of fun with it, but it also means that there's other options that aren't really being explored. It's kind of taking up all the space in the build variety. And so one of the reasons for that is that the Hunter it resets itself. If you cast
right
it
now, the philosophy is if something is good
and it can kind of chain
and
reset,
other stuff is bad,
and
we need to ruin the good stuff so people play the bad stuff.
And so it just kind of like feels bad whenever you're like, oh, I guess I ran out of luck and now I have to wait.
You know, that's a bit the philosophy
we found
here.
That to be like kind of degenerately powerful for anything that triggers on when you cast an ultimate. But also, it was just not fun.
But
when
why?
You kind of failed to get that reset.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at reworking the exact mechanics of the way the Hunter reset works. So it'll still have that like kind of cooldown reduction theme, but it won't be quite as feast or famine as it was in the past. We've also got a new unique item. This one is the Balaton's Maxiltal. I might have mispronounced that. Maxiltal. I literally looked up how to pronounce this morning.
Maxiltal.
I tried.
That's good. It's a tricky one, Charles.
Each attack damages close enemies for 300% of your thorns and also deals
with poison and thorns builds, kind of hybridizing
chat,
those
our
two
poison
together.
thorns build will be
attacks
insane.
against close enemies, when you're attacking close up, you're up close and personal. You're going to do bonus percent of your thorns damage, but as poisoning over 3 seconds. So you get a kind of a free way to apply poisoning here. But if you've also been hit recently and you've retaliated with your thorns, then that poisoning damage is going to be increased even further. So it really allows you to convert your thorns damage into offense.
Build that we have been doing,
and it does even reward you for actually getting hit with that thorns. But a lot of this is going to come in that poisoning damage when you're hitting the enemies up close and personal.
Yeah, I love how this unique really takes the core concept of thorns, which is you must be hit, but still it like empowers you very intensely in terms of your offense by leaning into that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely solves that problem where
I'm expecting in the patch notes
we were hesitant to make
we lowered the life total in Torment 4. That's what I'm currently expecting to happen, but we'll see if they talk about actual tier 4
and that's not necessarily
changes.
Fun gameplay. And so I think this does a really good job of
because they just nerfed everything. They took power away from everything.
Players would really want.
Totally.
By a margin.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of class changes coming in the PTR.
If they don't adjust Torment 4, it's going to be
all
weird.
The feedback you have around, do these unique items and the legendary reworks and the other balance changes, are these
PTR? Yes, we're doing PTR in 5 days. 100%.
Sork,
we're going to do like 2-3 days of PTR probably, and then jump into Elden Ring Night Rain.
At the highest levels when you have like
That's
really
the plan.
maxed out stuff.
Like
and
27, 28, 29, Elden Ring Night Rain.
Every build that I talked about here. We're also really looking to make sure that we get feedback on the basic skill update. Like I said, we touched every single basic skill in the game. There might be some outliers still, some things that are a little too strong, a little too weak. And as we're going to be doing similar passes and looking at other kind of categories of skills on the skill tree, we'd love any kind of feedback on
Thorns are real. Thorns are real in Season 8 already. If you check out our Thorns Spirit board
as well.
Pretty good.
And finally, just wanted to make sure that we really are focusing on kind of shifting up that very top of the meta. I talked a lot about some nerfs to the really overperforming builds, specifically Overpower, because we do want to make sure that Season 9, you don't feel like, oh, it's all the same builds all again at the top of the meta. For the 3rd season in a row. We really don't want that to be the case. We want to make sure there's new options for players who really want to push the limit of their character, and it's not just the same thing over and over again.
Totally.
Wow, well, Charles, take a bow. That was an incredible section. I mean, players are going to have a ton to chew on in the PTR. That is an absolute smattering of content.
Are you surprised he pronounced everything correctly?
I mean, you nailed it. I was ready to razz you on it.
I would like to see the blog post / patch notes,
That's
please.
fantastic. So yeah, patch notes and the blog do hit following the stream. So if you missed anything in any of the sections, we will have those available following the streams. You can get in and really get into the nitty-gritties of all those changes. But we do have some more changes still coming that are going to affect the entire game. So Aislinn, I know we've got some systems. We kind of teased it. Dan sort of touched on it at the start of the stream, but we can finally get into it. What do you have for us?
Yeah, let's talk about systems, guys. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about is the the seasonal activity variety. That's the next one. So something we saw in Season 8 was we added seasonal currency to the lair bosses.
This one is good.
It was
Elites
for
and
the Season
bosses
of the
granting
Boss,
seasonal reputation is
which we
good.
really ended up liking. The reason we like it a ton is because it touches all parts of the game. Like, you need to go to a bunch of different places to actually get lair keys. And so if lair bosses in the in-game are a thing that provide access to seasonal progression, that kind of naturally disseminates out to the entire game experience, which we really, really liked. So we actually want to keep that going forward, and we'd like to use that on top of any other ways that the player can earn seasonal reputation or seasonal currency.
This is a change I really
in a
like,
given season.
and it's a good change.
And the same is true not just in Torment, but across the entire game through elites and bosses granting seasonal reputation. Whenever you kill any elites or any boss in the game in Season 9, you are going to earn seasonal reputation. And this is tying directly into that problem we were having where, you know, we felt really pressured to go to Apparition Incursion. We love the seasonal content, and we love the Horadric strong rooms, and we love all the new
you could do
amazing
pretty
Nightmare
much
Dungeon
only
updates.
bosses and get all
But
the
we
Spectre
also
Ash
want to make
done.
sure that if you end up
Perfect.
finding yourself in Helltide or in a stronghold because you felt like it, you're actually earning progress, and the game's rewarding you for playing it, basically.
This makes me so happy because I'm a very scatterbrained player. I'm always, you know, I'm going to do this activity, then this one, then this one. But now I get to feel good all the time.
Yeah, that's the hope.
So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Of course. Yeah, so that's the hope with this update. And I just want to reiterate, there are still going to be really powerful and good ways to earn seasonal reputation and currency, specifically through interacting with the season. These are on top of all of that other stuff, so that you can just go do a bunch of cool stuff. So yeah, that's that, and let's talk more about the Nightmare Sigils and what's coming with that. So we talked a little bit about it when Dan was talking about this, and I actually want to preface this section with something that's not listed here, but I think you guys might want to know. You can now teleport to Nightmare Dungeons from inside a Nightmare Dungeon. We wanted to make that update just a quality of life change because
That's
this
a
was
minimal
season of the Nightmare
thing.
Dungeon.
It should have been in the game
there you
since
go.
forever, but
it's going to be a
thank you.
lot smoother to go from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon in Season 9 and going forward in Diablo 4. Very happy about that because it was kind of annoying to have to leave
I want
the
to
dungeon
talk
and
more
then go to
about
the next
Horadric
one.
material
That's no longer a
reserve.
thing.
Or
Okay, that out of the way,
Forgotten
let's talk
Wisdom.
about these new affixes and what's so cool about them. So, in live right now, there were only 2 positive affixes in the game. There was like an experience affix and a gold affix. And that ended up getting pared down over time. And we kind of wanted to take a step back and be like, how can we inject a lot more depth and ways for you to find what you're actually looking for in a Nightmare Dungeon? And so what we decided and landed on was we wanted to make a lot more positive affixes, and we wanted to assign a rarity system to them so that sometimes when you crafted or found a Nightmare Dungeon sigil, you'd get really rare ones that were really powerful. And other times
The problem
you'd get,
is if you're not visually
normal
making
ones,
this
but,
clear, I'm not
ones
going to
that might
hover over
give
every
you,
single one.
like a specific kind of
Right?
reward, which can be really useful. And so here, for example, we have the Horadric Materials Reserve.
If it's a rare
this one
sigil,
gives
it
you
needs
a
to show
smattering of,
different
resources
color.
that you might need. So if you find yourself low on Forgotten Souls or other kinds of resources, you can specifically go to this Nightmare Dungeon and stock up on that stuff. And we have some other affixes like that, for example, specifically gems or different kinds of gems.
Nightmare Dungeons are worst tributes? No, you're looking wrong at it. Nightmare Dungeons always drop masterwork material, no matter which kind you go into.
And then there are, of course, still like the experience one and the gold one and a lot
This
of
is on
other
top of the masterwork
miscellaneous
mats.
affixes that will just, hopefully be really fun to just go in and poke around and pick which ones are the best for you. And another thing I really wanted to call out is that we specifically wanted to avoid penalizing specific elements or builds.
Undercity is still going to be more specific,
So something we
as
saw
Undercity
earlier
can
in
be
Diablo's
blasted
development,
through,
or excuse me, Diablo
whereas
4
Nightmare Dungeons
being
you have to
live,
kill everything to get the maximum out of it.
Negative affixes that would say, you deal less shadow damage or whatever. And if your build was a shadow build, that kind of didn't feel great. And so we wanted to make sure that all of these negative affixes were more agnostic of speaking directly to your build, but still provided a challenge. And so with these 2 changes together, we're really hoping that We're going to see a
There's
lot more
still drifting shade
variety
in,
and
which is the
depth
worst
in
thing ever,
actually,
and I
engaging
disenchant
with
every
Nightmare
drifting
Dungeons,
shade one.
and that they're not going to feel too
Right?
frictioned, or you're not going to find a
Yep.
Nightmare Dungeon that just
They brought back Stormmaid's
doesn't-
Wrath
that
and Drifting
feels like
Shade
it's telling you,
for no
you're not
reason.
allowed to
Not
play
that
them.
anyone's
we
going to
don't
play
want
these
that,
Nightmare Dungeons.
And again, this is a permanent update to the game. We've done this because it is, you know, a season very heavily focused on Nightmare Dungeons, but which was like the perfect time to do this. And now we're super stoked that it's going to be going forward. And we want to hear what you have to say about it. You know, that, like I said, there's a lot of different affixes. Let us know how they feel. Run through these dungeons. Let us know how.
I mean, affix is definitely going to make me rather go into a Nightmare Dungeon because now I really get something out of it.
Make the system even better for Season 9
Right?
launch.
Yeah, that was actually a question that Addiction had in Twitch chat, which is, are these dungeon changes permanent? And so for this section,
yes.
all these changes that Aizen's speaking to are permanent, and the same thing with Escalating Nightmares and Horadric Strong Rooms. Those are going to persist beyond the 2.3.0
even
PTR
Horadric
in Season
Strong
9.
Rooms?
So,
Wow.
and then everything Aizen's getting to now, that's all going to affect the Eternal and Seasonal and will be permanent. So
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
super nice, super good changes.
Yes, super excited about it. All right, cool. Yeah, I think we have an asset here kind of showing off what you might be able to find in a Nightmare Dungeon. So that nifty little purpley mirror thingy is a Horadric artifact, which is a part of one of the new affixes that you'll actually find when venturing into Nightmare Dungeons. And of course, our rogue is getting rid of this pesky blood blister. So yeah, can't wait for you to try it all out. It's going to be fun. Next up, we have, drum roll, please.
Big one. I'm so excited.
I'm very, very happy and excited and proud to be able to say we are increasing the quality of items per Torment tier. And what this means is when you go into Torment 2 or then further into 3 or 4, you are going to find more ancestral items. You are going to find more ancestral items from all sources. This includes layer boss drops.
As
when
you
go
should.
and fight a layer boss
As
in a
you
higher
should.
Torment tier, you are going to have a better chance at finding ancestrals when you climb those torments. This is true throughout the world when things are just dropping randomly. This is true in the pit. This is true everywhere. We really like this change. We think that it rewards you for ascending the torment tier in a very impactful, you know, like we say, punch you in the face kind of way.
I mean, this is the most logic change ever. This,
to
like,
go to higher torments.
a monkey
And that's
could have
something
made
we,
this one.
Also really want to make sure we get right, because we want to ensure that we're enriching the progression journey for all players, regardless of where you are.
I'm going Torment 4 and I'm getting
right now.
worse drops than Torment 2.
And so again, you know, we
Great.
keep saying this, but this is going to be a test realm. So please go on, try this out, see if you can feel the difference. And, you know, can you feel the difference? Can you not feel the difference?
It's not
Do
like,
the
again,
difference
as you say,
between these
Torment
different
4
torment
had
tiers,
already this
and
drop. They
the
just
loot
reverted
quality
it in
changes that are
Season
occurring
8, why
between
ever.
them. And that's just another topic that we'd love to hear your feedback on.
Oh, Roger, we had better drops
All right.
in Season 6
And
and
with that
Season 7.
said,
They just
let's
nerfed
talk
them again.
about a bit of
For no
more
reason.
miscellaneous reward economy stuff. So here there's
Resource
some
economy, okay.
more miscellaneous feedback that we got from Season 8 that we want to just improve on for the game so that everyone
Legendary
has
rune
more fun.
drops, yay!
We hear you guys about legendary rune drop rates. We know that those were too low.
Way
so
too
we've
low.
just increased the chance across the whole game to get that back to a point where it feels like if you
All
are playing
Undercity
a lot
tributes
and
now
you
drop a
really
rune,
are
that's
trying to make
great.
progress towards like crafting a mythic, that's feasible. Another thing where, again, the big reward moments, we want to make sure that when you actually run a Tribute of Harmony,
Whisper caches more
it feels like a
resources.
big burst.
This is,
like it's
we
like,
used to
oh,
have that
yes,
already.
Okay, cool. This is a lot of runes. This is fantastic. And so now, if you really do want to find a lot of those runes, Tributes of Harmony are going to be a really good bet. We also kind of just want
These are
to
good
inject
changes.
identity into Undercity Tributes.
These kind of
in
meta
general,
changes are
that they
needed.
now all just drop a rune always. So now just in general, going to the Undercity, you're going to find more runes than you certainly would have before. And that just applies to all different kinds of
They
tributes.
should say more legendary rune
the
drops
Whisper Cache
per
resource
torment
increase
tier.
one is
If I'm in
actually
Torment
split
4,
among 3
I
different
should
Whisper
only
Caches.
find rare runes.
So we were finding
shouldn't
that
find
the
magic
Gold
runes
Whisper
anymore.
Cache, the Materials Whisper Cache, and the Gem
Or
Fragment
very
Whisper
rare.
Cache just weren't really giving you enough for the opportunity cost against the other kinds. So we just bumped up how much those are giving you of their respective thing pretty substantially. You can also now actually find whole gems inside gem fragment whisper caches. And it's only a chance for some of the good ones. Like, for example, I think there's actually a very small chance to
I've
find
done 600 lights, got one mythic. The drop rates are okay. Cameron users unlucky.
Which is a lot of gem fragments,
really
so it's not a very high chance.
You gotta stop making my day. That
the
sounds
chances have always been that low.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
only rotation has made it possible.
And oh yes, this is one of my personal favorites. So we saw that the Jewelers of Sanctuary had adopted some Wanderer unfriendly practices, and their caches were perhaps a bit too expensive. And we have decided to, crack down on that and make sure that they are being more friendly to our Wanderers.
Not these. They
So
should
now
reduce
here we
the
have,
cost of
these
gem
different
fragment crafting
jewelry
too,
cache
of
types.
gems in general.
Their cost has been significantly reduced, and on top of that, not only has their cost been significantly reduced, but they're going to give you quite a bit more actual jewelry. So with the gem fragment increases, or rather like different sources of getting more gem fragments and the reduced cost and the increased stuff from the caches, they should be more lucrative. And finally, talking about gems, we have increased the amount of gems you're going to be getting from Infernal
We
Worms
now
as
need
well.
still tier
Again,
4
punch you in the face.
life
At this point,
adjustments.
I'm sorry if I've given you a bloody nose, but that's
Lots of face punching today. There's a through line in
Otherwise,
this
I'm going to be
Poison
disappointed.
puddles and
We're
face
with
rated
the
M
damage
for
nerfs.
excitement.
There you go. Thank you guys for listening to the systems updates. There's a lot to unpack here, and these kinds of updates are sometimes a little challenging to
What's with the
test
Torrent 4
within a
changes?
PTR environment.
I was
because
waiting
you're
for
getting,
that.
like, all these boosts, and it only lasts a short period of time. But if this kind of stuff interests you, please, by all means, test it out. Let us know what you think. Give us all the feedback on it you want, because everything is just super valuable for us to tweak it to make it even more awesome.
All right,
Yeah,
this
like
is
as
why
Dan
we're getting
said,
PDR, guys.
or
We can
sorry,
play
Dan,
about
as I'm
this,
citing
right?
Dan, one of the things he said is like now's the time that we can turn the knobs and really juice things up. So
Yeah.
definitely go in and like take your time with a lot of these changes. Some of them
Yeah.
might not feel impactful at first, but like really get a feel for how things have shifted, because there are so many different components in this PTR that it's gonna there's a ton of different influences from all the different areas of the game. So that's really exciting, Aislinn. I'm super excited to check
do
those
4
things
changes?
out, some more jeweler caches.
Maybe
Yeah,
there's
that'd be great.
something in the patch notes they kind of
But yeah,
forgot
so
to
the
mention for
2.30
no reason.
PTR, so some just general reminders for everyone watching. It's going to be exclusively on PC Battle.net, and it'll be available from May 27th until June 3rd. So get in, test it out.
Yeah,
Please
I'm
give
going to
us your
test it for
feedback.
2 days.
The PTR
27,
forums,
28, maybe
the Diablo 4
29,
PTR
and then
forums
Elden
will
Ring
be
Night
open.
Reign.
Those will be
This is currently
that'll
the
be
plan.
the best place for you to drop your feedback. Of course, we will be monitoring our socials as usual, but we will be definitely looking into the forums to get most of the feedback there. The PTR boost will be available right outside of Kyovashad. Marak, our favorite dancing demons there. Marak, he's kind of been getting fit for the summer. His offerings are so diversified this time around. Like, you can really segment out between seasonal currency into the different like item caches. Like, there's a lot of great custom boosts that you can get from Marak. So he is there. He's in Kyovashad. He's happy to see you as always. And
We'll just activate him
give us your feedback
immediately.
on the PTR forums.
No
We're
day
really looking
later.
forward to it. But definitely get in there and test and give us all your feedback. And with that, that brings us to our Q&A portion of the stream. So hopefully you've been dropping your questions in Twitch chat. We're really excited to get into it. But first off, we do want to take a moment to address our first question, which is, what are we potentially doing about Reliquary? So this is our first stream since Season 8 launched with the Reliquary. It was our team's first big swing at changing the battle passes in a big way, bringing in different rewards, more enhanced rewards, giving some more choice to the players. We have heard your overwhelming feedback. We know that this is a system with some mixed feelings. And so we are looking, the team is working very hard in the background. We are looking to bring some more things into the Reliquary to really give you some of that value. And, this is something we've been talking about a lot. Thank you all for the feedback on it. We've been reading that, across forums and socials ever since the season launched. And do note, we do have an event reliquary that is coming up around the corner.
I
so in
know
a
how
couple
they're
weeks.
talking
Well,
about
and
reliquaries,
pretty soon,
which is the
you'll
battle
get another
pass, and
event
no one
reliquary
asked
to
for
dig
it.
your teeth into, but it is something the team
Like,
has noted.
literally the least
we don't have a
interesting
timeline on
thing
it, but it
right
is
now.
something that we will implement in the future. So thank you again for that. Additionally, with Season 8, we also had the Berserk collaboration, which, like, Aislinn, I know you've got the Brand of Sacrifice on right now. Like, you're a huge Berserk
When
fan.
all in
I became
all,
a fan once
if
we
we
started
ignore
the
the
IP collab.
nerfs,
It's been really
is this
fun
a
seeing
good
all the, like,
patch?
Guts and Griffiths
With the
running around in
nerfs,
game.
we need to see
But
how
again,
it
we
plays
have
out.
heard your feedback on that IP collaboration.
Obviously, it looks like
into account. And for those of you that know
that we're going to have damage issues.
We do have another IP collab coming down the pipe in the future. So we want to take that feedback from the Berserk collab and really integrate that into the future offerings so that we can, better diversify and change up some of the ways that you access those pieces of content from the IP collab. So again, thank you very much for your feedback. We do really appreciate it. Ongoing game dev is an iterative process, and the community is a very big part of that. So we very much appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And yeah, with that, let's get into Q&A. Okay. So thank you. Shout out to the community team for grabbing all these questions. What are we going to start off with? All right. Renata Kane. This one I might send this one to Dan first. Will you be able to find Horadric strongholds inside Escalating Nightmares?
Yeah, you absolutely will. Escalating Nightmares are nightmare dungeons, and so
okay, so you can do an escalating nightmare, find Horadric strongholds,
dungeon,
get more escalating nightmare sigils.
We talked about, and also including Horadric strong rooms will appear in that flow.
Okay,
awesome, love that. The Rudder. These new dungeon changes will be available in the Eternal Realm at the start of next season.
Yes, the Nightmare Dungeon affix changes. I think I might need to throw it to Dan. No, they're permanent additions to the game, so yeah, they should be available in Eternal. They should all be available.
Right
I'm hyped for the Nightmare Dungeon changes.
One other
seem
question,
fun.
I didn't have this.
I'm hyped for the boss powers. I'm not hyped for the nerfs.
But people were asking, where is mouse and keyboard on console? That is still coming with Season 9. However, because the 2.3.0 PTR is exclusive to PC, we're not going to test console changes. However, that is still coming. So
yeah.
Fear not. Wow, okay, I have to read this question just because of the username. Big Daddy Den 76. This one's for you, Charles. Okay. With Soul Rift not generating barrier, how is Necromancer going to gain defense?
There's lots of different options for Necromancer to gain defense. You've got some new options in the seasonal Horadric spellcraft. You've got Fortify through some of the blood magic. You've got other ways of generating barrier, but not just on Soul Rift. They've got some passive and some other ways of generating barrier from legendaries. And you may just need to, access some of the defensive legendary options that are out there, which have typically been very underutilized just because you had other ways of solving that defense. We still think Soul Rift will be pretty appealing because it has, like a lot of resource gain.
This question was really not necessary to be answered.
But if you really want pure defense, then maybe look at some of the blood skills. Maybe look at Bone Storm instead, which still has a large damage reduction component attached to it as well.
Yeah, nerfing builds and making T4 more difficult forces people to do meta. I don't like meta.
Are there any
this is
updates
true.
on tempering and masterworking?
Yeah, so tempering and masterworking is something that we have been talking about internally. We don't have anything to share exactly yet about how we would want to tweak the system. So hang tight. But I can say, in terms of a quality of life update, in 2.2.2, so the patch coming out in Season 8, we are actually going to be updating the amount of non-gold, non-obdicite resource and materials that it costs to masterwork from rank 1 to 4 and on the reset. And the reason why is because we were seeing that people that were getting pretty far into the end game would end up effectively deprecating the need for the gold and even potentially the obdicite, and then getting blocked by those other resources. But that was never actually the intent of the system. It was there, those resource costs were there to slow you down basically, or just rather friction you in other ways, and tax those resources, never to be the primary thing that blocks you. And so we don't want that to happen. So we
right now, Forgotten Souls are cucking you, and Veiled Crystals.
Yeah.
But beyond
so that's
that,
good news because I ran out of both while masterworking. I had 20,000 Opticide.
That's really great, Ethan.
But no Forgotten Souls.
Masterwork blocked at a specific point, so anything to reduce friction in that system is
I like how she said, though, that was meant to slow you down,
Scroll
chat.
of Wisdom. With a system like Horadric spells being this awesome, are you looking to maybe make it a permanent part of the game? I already feel sad knowing it's going to leave the game for the next season's power.
So I can't specifically speak on that, but what I will say is nothing is ever truly gone
slow you down,
because we are developers. We have access to everything, right? So and this is a game that will continue to evolve and evolve. So the team hasn't talked about it. I can't say anything definitive, but we love all the seasonal stuff we create, and yeah, who knows for the
creators
future.
are definitely shooting, by the way,
in previous seasons where
in the Discord.
way back in season 2
There's
when we
already
first did the
feedback
Vampiric powers, we
rolling
brought
in.
some of them back as some of the more popular ones back as unique items. Once again, we're not committing to any particular bringing back, but it's always on our radar, and that's why we love hearing feedback about the things that really resonate with players, and then that can help us to design future systems, whether it be future seasonal or future kind of those permanent systems as well. We're always listening to that, and it's always on the table to bring them back, the ones that really resonate with players.
Nice. Party Cannon 1990, very fun name. Will there in the future be a possibility that the Nightmare Sigils can have active whispers shown on them?
Yeah, that's another thing that we've seen a lot of folks talk about. It's something we're interested in exploring that space because it's a really fun and kind of a natural connection. Right now for Season 9, that's not something that's going to be directly in the season.
Yeah, like when you activate a Nightmare Sigil, it would be nice to know if that Nightmare Sigil is going to be a whisper before you activate it.
So, if that's something you feel strongly about, please keep letting us know, and we will we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely. This one, Charles, I feel like I already know what you're going to say to this. Cop Mando, will there be any more balance changes for the current season?
For Season 8, the current season that is live.
Oh, actually, yeah. For the current season,
Currently, no. There's no plans for any more balance changes on Season 8, the season of bosses that's currently live on the game. We've updated our seasonal balance cadence a little bit. So now, starting in Season 8 and going forward even into Season 9, we're going to have the PTR before the season. That's when we do kind of our initial batch, like, hey, these are the balance changes we're looking at. We take in a lot of the feedback from the PTR, and then we iterate on it, and we when it goes live, the season goes live, we say, hey, here's the live
They show
season.
next season power, yes.
We'll take the immediate feedback from that if there's any kind of progression breakers, things that are really outlier, things that we kind of missed,
trouble with the Overpower
an
nerfs.
interaction that, oops, that wasn't intended, and we'll try to make a rapid reaction within the first week or two of a season to bring it
powerful.
Bring it down to earth, or to bring some of those builds that were really underperforming our mark and bring those up a little bit. But after that point, our intention is to really let the season ride, right? Once you're about 2 weeks into the season, you've already committed some time into your build, you've invested in your character, and we really want to respect that time investment. And we don't want to come in and say, oh, just kidding, we're going to dramatically change the meta on you right after you've already done all that investment. We just know that's going to feel bad for everyone involved. And so we've really committed to making fast, rapid reactions right after that season launch within a week or two, and then letting it ride from there until the end of the season, until the next season when we kind of repeat the cycle again.
Yeah, honestly, it's like I'm really glad at the way we do it too, because like even for Season 8, having it be a bit of a shorter season, it would be so rough to you're like, okay, I've got these 2 months with with my build and with these boss powers, so then to have
boss powers help the season, so hopefully it will be the same with the Horadrim powers.
To really get into the nitty gritties of it.
By the way, is it Horadrim or Horadrim?
And that gives us as developers and like designers looking at this data and thinking about these balance changes, it allows us to kind of take our focus off Season 8 and focus more on Season 9. And so, we're going to be putting out higher quality balance changes and higher quality releases by kind of moving on from a season to focus on the next one earlier. That just gives us more time to look at that data and really deliver high quality releases.
Season 8 runs until the 1st of July. Yes, in July we already get the new season. That's going to be very early.
When you're playing the PTR, we are watching and we are just reading all the things being said, and it is so fun and meaningful to us to see people reacting and giving us new ways to improve the things we've made.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 110%.
150.
Yeah.
We will be reading your feedback. Do not worry about that. Karoi Nekamata. I think, Liam, this will be, it could be one for you, but maybe for the whole team. Would you consider the possibility that one can disable the effects of other players, or at least dim them down, so that one is not always flashed when, i.e., Sorks, like 4 Sorks are running around? And I could see that with
what are
the
people asking for
they
questions?
Are so bright
like,
and visual that,
are you nerfing tier 4?
It's probably a bit. The
How are we going to kill tier 4 bosses?
Insane, and I know like we've had Earthquake Barbarians running around covering the ground with broken ground.
Guilty.
Yeah. So this is definitely things we're considering. Like we all, play the game and we play in parties.
What do you care about visual flashing effects?
Insane.
What's
I
Twitch
can't
chat
speak to
doing?
broadly everything. I've heard bits and pieces. You could talk about that, Charles or Aislinn. But I know with the Horadric spells, we are making use of some tech to do that on some of the powers, such as with the pets, so the cosmic anomalies. You're not going to see 100 cosmic anomalies floating and going everywhere. They're going to be kind of dimmed out, very similar to like the
no one asked important questions. Like every question asked so far.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a kind of
seems to be
overarching
staged
pain point that I think surfaces from time to time, which is very reasonable and fair. And it's something that the team considers, especially with every new release, the Horadric spellcraft. I'm glad we're doing that. And it's you know, it's something that they take into with a lot of consideration, and they want to protect the visual clarity of the game, but
nerf
they also want to make sure that
like,
people can
you don't need to nerf T4 bosses.
The
we just need a life adjustment in T4 in
so
general.
if there are certain things that crop up that you find particularly egregious in that way, especially during the PTR, please play the PTR.
Damage nerfs.
Let us know, and we can get that information to the team. And we can.
For example, my Thorns Druid is only
I got a question
Overpower.
here from Airsoft
And it's
Daniel.
doing 50 billion
Diablo,
damage.
What changes will be
Minus
made to
80%
reliquaries
now.
in Season 9 to provide more value to paying players? So kind of similar to what I addressed at the start of the stream, we do have some changes coming in to get some more content into reliquaries. It's unclear as to whether or not that's going to be hitting in Season 9. It will be in the future, so Season 9 is probably too soon for those changes to hit. However, we are looking to inject more of that content into the reliquaries moving forward.
Yeah, but more content in the reliquaries is not making new endgame content.
Probably not
That's
Season
just
9, but definitely in the future.
Not something.
And I think we've got time for one last question. Let's see.
Oh, he's cherry picking. He's cherry picking.
Ice Panther. This one's for you, Charles. Are you bringing out any more new items, ancestral or mythics, into the new season?
So for the new season, we're going to be releasing one new unique item per class, the ones we highlighted on stream here. No more, there's no additional items, unique or legendaries that we didn't talk about. But there will be some new, relatively new legendary effects, because we did some substantial reworks of, you know, we basically said, hey, this was something that talked to Grizzly Rage was my main example. And we
there's, for example, an aspect of...
So in some way, those are kind of new, but they don't, they're not
for the second curse, that I forget
like
the name.
A brand new legendary to collect.
They're all
and we
useless.
didn't go over those rework legendaries explicitly on the stream, but they are going to be
minus 80% overpower nerf. Yes, overpower is doing 80% less damage.
Blog once
pretty much.
This is done. There just was like a handful, and because they were kind of reworks, we're
so
naturally
take
limited
every
on time. This
top
stream is
damage build you have right now. It does, for example, 100 billion damage, and then shave 80% off that.
Changes and more content than we even talked about here. So make sure you check out the blog afterwards for all those details.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A portion of the stream, which
so if your build was barely viable with Overpower,
if you're still watching, thank you for sticking
it's not
with
viable
us.
anymore.
This one has been a beefy stream.
And if your build is super viable with Overpower,
and the PTR
it
blog
might
are
still
be
work.
Following the stream,
it
is a very, very substantial blog, so we will have all localized languages available early next week. But you can check those out when those do go live.
Everyone is going Spiritborn Thorns. I mean, everyone was going for Quill Volley. So next season is everyone going Spiritborn Thorns, yes.
I want to give a huge thank you to all the developers that have been here today. Dan coming in all the way from Albany. Thank you for hanging with us.
Builds will be even less this season. I would reckon with the nerfs right now that build variety is going down, not up.
Thank you for tuning in. Like Aislinn said to start the stream, we love that you played Diablo 4. We love being a part of this process, and you guys are a very big part of that. Thank you to our production crew.
Peppo, what did you miss?
There's a ton of hands
Good
that
changes to
work
Nightmare
behind
Dungeons.
the scenes to make these streams possible. They work
nerfs.
very tirelessly.
Good overall
so thank you to them for
systematic
helping
changes.
Bring, these streams to life.
A mixed
and
bag.
Yeah, we will see you all for the 230 PTR. We'll see you in Sanctuary.
Diablo's always like
and
this.
stick around. Sorry,
Here,
stick around
and then a
following
little
the
bit of
stream, because
this.
we will have the Diablo
there,
creator.
And
We're
this.
going to be rating RizarJ on both. RizarJ on both YouTube and Twitch. So stick around for more great Diablo 4 content. But yeah,
like,
we'll see you in
they
the
struggle with
230
just
PTR.
collecting
See you in
W's.
Sanctuary.
Yep.
Hey, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, I need that blog post. I need that blog post. So we get before the blog post comes, chat, I wrote everything down. Everything here for you. Right? So we got 30 Horadric spells, 30 components, catalyst, together with infusions and arcana for effect tuning, Nightmare Dungeon affix updates for cooler things.
Wix, eine Plattform.
We got new micro dungeons inside Nightmare Dungeons. Escalating Nightmare with Astaroth boss fights, which is kind of cool. We get Horadric jewels, which are pretty much reworked jewels, but still 15 different ones. Class balance is 80% overpower damage reduction. Additive damage rebalance, so that crit and vulnerable is more on pace with overpower. But I see this as a nerf because I can expect them to just bring overpower down and not bring the others up. Basic skills do more damage, yay. Basic skills do more damage, guys. They're nerfing uniques that give you too much resistance, because why not? And key passives can't deal more than 75% bonus damage. So if your key passive, for example, is now enabling your build to do 200% more damage, they're nerfing that. Because it can't be that your build is doing 200% more damage. So every key passive is kind of going to be the same, which is on the one hand good. Okay? It's good that every key passive is the same. But on the other hand, it's kind of really taking out those cool outliers, which is sad. Yeah, like the Flame Sork. Exactly. The Flame Sork specifically get nerfed. Barbarian is getting a huge Earthquake nerf. Druid get a Cataclysm nerf. Necromancer gets a Soul Rift nerf and a Bloodwave nerf. Rogue is Death Trap to the drains. Sork is Lightning Spear to the drains. And Burning Rebalance for the key passive cap. Enlightenment is also getting a key passive cap. Spiritborn is now getting a Thorns buff. It's truly a mixed bag, because I do believe that the Nightmare Dungeon rework is going to be very good for the game, personally. I'm really excited for that, right? But yeah, I'm like cautiously cautious for the rest. Okay, are the new patch notes already out, chat? News? Someone have the new blog post? I'm waiting for the blog post currently. So yeah, like they're truly trying to do the right thing, but I'm not entirely sure if they're hitting that. I mean, we get an economy update that's good, so more legendary runes, all Undercity tributes drop runes, Whisper caches give more resource, more gems from hordes. In general, we get more resources. We get more uniques from bosses per torment tier and more ancestrals per torment tier, and the quality is going to be higher. The Horadric strong rooms are permanent, so they're going to stay forever. This is kind of cool. We're currently waiting for the patch notes to drop for the blog post. There's the campfire chat recap. I found it. Yeah, we got the campfire chat recap. Oh, great. That's just that post that says nothing. Amazing. Okay, there's the article. Okay, so we got the customized powers. That's everything in here, right? It kind of explains it all. Then we're going to go for the infusion arcana. So we're not going to go over this because we all know what's happening here, kind of. Do they have another? No, they still so Nibbles extract. Your spell catalyst now deals shadow or corruption damage. Your spell catalyst deals burning damage. That was infusions, right? They have. So I'm going down to the actual here. Where are we? Arcana, magic, rare. Okay, strong rooms. We're at the strong rooms, obviously. Escalating nightmares, Astaroth, Nightmare Dungeon affixes, jewels. You deal 20% more damage and take 10% more elemental damage. After you cast your catalytic skill, gain 10 primary resource. That's funny. Catalytic skills gain 25% cooldown reduction. That's also cool. New unique items. We had those. Okay. But I'm looking for specific changes. Okay, there we go. This is what I was looking for. We have the Spiritborn. Thrash deals more damage. Withering Fist deals more damage. Rock Splitter is also doing more damage. That's kind of cool. That's a lot, actually, from 28 to 80% damage increased. Sepasontek, damage is reduced, but still more. So it goes from 130 down to 100. But the actual third attack goes from 280 to 80. So this gets a 52% damage increase, but this gets a 30% damage nerf. All in all, we do more. Runes, Undercity Curist. Tribute of Titans drops significantly reduced from lair bosses, but from everywhere else. Okay, base game. We have the Barb, Necro, Rogue, Sorg. Okay, Shot of Arathiel is nerfed because basic attacks are too strong. Pain Gorge is nerfed because basic attacks are too strong. And they're nerfing the aspect of Moonrise. That's bullshit. Moonrise used to be 100% bonus damage. Now it's only 60% bonus damage. Absolute, like, literal bullshit. Makes no sense. Aspect of Adaptability is now basic skill generate additional resource. Once per skill, basic skills deal increased damage for each point of primary resource you have. That's kind of nice because you can actually scale it now, but it's still a nerf, like a significant nerf, because right now with 100 resource, it does 60% damage, but you could technically scale it more. Still, it's a waste because you have to put things in for that. Ugly Bastard Helmet requires Wrath of the Berserker instead of only Berserking to be active to convert your damage to fire. That's going to be interesting, though. We're going to play a Berserking fire damage dude with bonus fire damage. Druid. Earth Spike, Wind Shear, Storm Spike, Maul, Fierce Claw. Pulverize does more damage. That's cool. Enhance Pulverize. Your next Pulverize will overpower. Every 10 seconds, your next Pulverize will overpower. That's amazing. Just very good. Even though with the Overpower nerfs, General, Druid buffs, Grizzly Rage is better. Slight increases and, yeah, slight increases in damage. Here's in strength, gain additional make, gain life, and 20% more damage. And on 100% while in werebear form and for 4% after leaving it. That's cool. Here's in strength is actually stronger, but weaker, kind of. So it's still over this 75% damage bonus because they set everyone at 75% damage bonus, right? But that's kind of changed. Okay, Mjolnir Ring. Look at this, Chan. Bullshit. Mjolnir Ring used to be amazing. Cataclysm. Now it's 40% damage bonus instead of 100%. They nerfed it so hard. Just forget, Chan. Just forget Cataclysm Druid, right? Necromancer, Reeb, Decompose, Hemorrhage. I mean, all of these are useless. You're not going to do that. No longer grants barrier. Damage. Whoa, that is huge. From 75 to 15 down. Soul Rift is useless. Damage bonus capped at 400%. Affliction passive is anyways useless. No one plays it. Previously, you deal damage per essence. Your essence generation is increased by 50%. And your bone skills deal more increased damage for each point of essence you have when cast up to 100%. Yeah, I mean, the essence generation plus 50 is good. That's actually nice. Shadow Blight. Base damage increased from 60 to 100. Damage scaling reduced from 100 to 2. Damage bonus kept at 300. Useless. It's like literally that you're capping this one makes it useless because it was only good because it was uncapped. Rathamus Vigor nerfed with the overpower damage down by 80% and then another 20% down. Great guys, right? Overpower damage on Necro down by 100%. Awesome. Aspect of the Swelling Curse was useless. Decaying Humorous. Bone Spirit's critical chance is increased by 10 to 30. Each enemy hit by Bone Spirit increases your essence by 2 for 15 seconds up to 50. Your Bone skills now deal shadow damage instead of physical. Enemies take increased shadow damage after being hit with Bone skills. Oh, cool. You can do a shadow... Oh, wow. That's insane. That's actually crazy. Your Bone skills now do shadow damage instead of physical. I wonder if you can scale Bone skills with shadow damage now. That could be really interesting. Okay, Plunging Darkness. Bone Prison is a darkness skill, spawns Pool of Blight. Bone Prison now darkness skill and spawns Pool of Blight for 6 seconds. Your Blight deals 60% increased damage while Bone Prison is active. Intriguing. That makes Blight just stronger with Bone Prison. Blighted Aspect. Increased damage for 6 seconds. Okay. Consecutive hits with Shadow Blight key passive. Deal increased damage for each hit, resetting 6 seconds after the first. What? Consecutive hits with Shadowblight key passive. Deal 25% increased damage for each hit, resetting 6 seconds after the first hit. So in the 6 second frame, the more hits you do, the more damage you get, but it's kept at this 6 seconds. I get it. Blood Mist leaves trail of desecrated ground. Yeah, that's nerf. Blood Mist leaves trail ground that lasts 8 seconds, dealing corrupting damage per second. Gain movement speed while Blood Mist is active and while standing in desecrated ground. It's now a mobility aspect rather than offensive. It's useless because you're never going to use it as an offensive aspect, so they kind of made it useless. Creeping Cadaver, evade cooldown reduction. You can now evade during Blood Mist. Consuming a corpse increases your movement speed. Useless. I don't know why you even bothered to make these. You can get 200% movement speed different. Times between blizzards reduced from 6 to 4. That's good for the Cold Bringers, but doesn't make it better. Deathless Visage, echo damage reduced. Great. I mean, I don't know why you're doing this. Oh my goodness, why are you doing that? The Deathless Visage was already bad. Okay, Endearest Memory, damage reduced to 40%. It's fine. Bloodless Scream is your darkness skill. Chill enemies up to and deal increased damage to frozen and bosses every 800 times. Your damage enemies with darkness skills. All nearby enemies are feared. Why put the fear here? You could have just done the froth. Okay. Bloodbath. Overpower damage reduced to 40%. So it's an 80% damage reduction, a 20% damage reduction, another 60% damage reduction. Overpower damage is dead, chat. It's just officially dead. Wow. Okay. I literally don't know how to deal with this at this point. Damage to enemies who resist the pull reduced from 180 to 60. Supreme Death Trap does like alone 120% less damage, plus the nerf on pans. So Death Trap is already getting like up to 200% damage nerf, plus the overpower nerf at 80%. Right? It's top end 80% power nerf to the overpower, and then your overpowers are generally doing less damage because of all the nerfs. I mean, if they're not balancing Torment 4, I don't know how they plan us to kill things in Torment 4. I asked this in the creator Discord already, Chad. How are they expecting us to clear? We will see, Chad. Okay? We will see in the PDR. I am excited for the PDR because I want to know how this is playing out, right? I need to know. Because right now, I don't know how they're planning to do this. Here, Ace in the Dark. Your next Death Trap will deal 200% increased damage and rearm itself after activating. This can only happen once every 10 seconds. Hey, chat, instead of your Death Trap dealing 150% bonus damage, right? Every 10 seconds, you have one Death Trap do 200% bonus damage. Oh, wow. Just say you don't want Death Trap players anymore. Because that's beyond... That's like beyond... I have no more words. Okay. While enlightened, your damage bonus are equal to the highest damage then you gain. Okay, but this was better. This was more... They slightly nerfed it. Not by much, but slightly. Okay, loot updates, whispers, Rise changes to improve overall consistency, collect gold, more rewards, collecting materials, more materials, collecting gems, more gems. Helltide drops significantly more cinders, yes. Completing rewards no longer draws magic, and rare items in torment difficulties, only ancestrals, thank you. Infernal Hordes, material chest now awards more gems. World bosses are now guaranteed to drop Infernal Compass as they should. Crafted caches are cheaper, we talked about it. They drop more items, which is good. Blacksmith caches are better. Ancestral chance now scales with difficulty tiers, so we have more difficulty, we have more ancestrals, which makes sense. The Horadric Reserve spawns loot chests with specialized rewards. Equipment Delve spawns weapon, jewelry, and armory. Power Shrines gives you power shrines. Forgotten Wisdom gives you experience modes. And Treasure Breach, several treasure goblins invade the dungeon. Summons such as the Druids, Companions, and Necromancers inherit lucky hit and overpower bonuses. They should have done that anyway, so that's weird. Bug fixes, but we're still waiting for... Yeah, okay. I am interested to see this. I have no clue how they're planning us to actually clear Torment 4 content with this. I mean, I can bring every single build to Torment 3 easily, right? I mean, my minions should be able to go into Torment 3. Plus, we get the boss powers. So, like, these boss powers are going to do something. I mean, let's see what we have. We have Catalyst, Celestial Surge, Awaken Oracular Rune that pulls in all surrounding enemies. A Torrent of Stars follows. So that's 15 seconds, 11.2 seconds at rank 20, and you can reduce this further. Disintegrate. Form an arcane conductor that emits a persistent beam between itself and you, dealing a steady blitz of damage over 8 seconds. Propulsion. Generate a mana blast that delivers damage and knocks back all foes. Enemies that collide take another damage. This is kind of useless. Cosmic Anomaly. Manifest up to 5 anomalies. Yeah, we talked about this. Then Astral Pillar. Shape an ethereal column that taunts for 3 seconds. Piercing waves flow from it and deal damage until you create another one or move to far away. This is really useful for the Necromancer minion build. Oh, Diablo won't die. There's no world where Diablo will die. Diablo is still fun, and all these changes are potentially not as horrible as we think they are, depending on how the game plays. I'm pretty sure they might have also reduced the life in Torment 4 without telling us because they're just weirdos. Now, that being said, right now, I think the Torment changes, the Nightmare changes are insane. Very well done. I love that. I can't wait to play Nightmare Dungeons. I can't wait to see the vaults. I can't wait to actually want to do Nightmare Dungeons again. Because let's be fair, I've been avoiding them like the plague, right? But they really missed the mark with the nerfs. I know they're trying to streamline the game, but if we're looking now for the pit leaderboards right now, okay, let's throw an eye on the pit leaderboards, Chad. Look at this. 121 for Sork, 113 for Barb, 113 for Necro, 111 for Rogue, 111 for Druid, 107 for Spiritborn. Everything is perfect, right? This is great. There's literally nothing you can complain about that. Sure, at the top end, there's mostly the same builds. But if you're looking actually around Pit 75, so if you go all the way down with Pit 75, you see the build variety rise. So let's hear, this is Pit 80. So you got a Bloodwave Necro, you get a Quill Volley, there's an Rain of Arrows Rogue. Then you obviously have the Lightning Spear with Frozen Orb. Then there is a Spiritborn with Poison. We got Death Trap Rogue. We got here a Barb that's playing some Mighty Throws. So even Mighty Throw made it to 82. Then you have a Golem Necro with minions, right? Who does 82. Fantastic. You got the Call of Ancients Necro, Call of Ancients Barb down here. Right? You have a bunch of different builds around this Pit 75. And all these builds that are barely able to do Pit 75. Barely. You get it, barely. Like Minion Necro, for example, is not going to be able to do this anymore. The only reason Minion Necro could do this was Overpower. And now that's over. It's not happening anymore. Minion Necro, after the changes, is potentially sitting somewhere at Pit 60. If even. If even. We will see. Chat, PDR is going to be played. We are giving feedback. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can yell at them. Be aware the creators are already complaining. Okay? Be aware the creators are already in riot, in ruckus. They know what works, what doesn't work. They know how the Overpower changes are brutal. Okay? So, I wouldn't, like... The creators are looking out for you. We want the game to be good as well. And, like, we're not happy. I can tell you that much for free. I'm not going to make a video tonight. I'm going to go to sleep now. And I'm going to make a video tomorrow morning where I wrap this all up together. And we're going to talk about the powers and everything. And we're going to keep it positive as we always do. But we're going to have some harsh words at the end. You know how it is. Because the Overpower nerfs are drastic. That being said, I'm done for tonight. So thank you for watching, lurking, chatting, hanging out, and hopefully having a good one. Hope you enjoyed our summary, our wrapping up, going through the patch notes and everything. Be back tomorrow for more with the patch notes and an evening stream We're not going to have a morning stream because we're skydiving with my dad, who invited our children for their first time skydiving in like a skydive hall with like this ventilator below you. Therefore, take care, and I'll see you soon again.